this should be episode 28 of Summoning Insight. The second one of our like new era where we're free. You know, like that movie, like 12 Years as a Slave. Like we're no longer slaves, Monty. Now we've broken free. We're actually our own man. We own ourselves.
I thought it was more like Duncan Unchained. You know.
Well, similar concept.
If we're going to just compare like more recent movies that deal with the topic of slavery, I would have thought that Django Unchained was like the much better, metaphor for this show.
Well, I'll just to put everyone's like heart at rest, I'm not going to go back and kill everyone who works on Games Money. That's not my plan. No matter how many times you tell people it is. Like, if they happened to die and their place was burned down, that wouldn't be anything to do with me. I'm just trying to live my own life and enjoy it. So our guest, I'll start the same way I normally do. So I'm Thorin, work for myself now. So if anything on this show like offends you or upsets you, or maybe you feel overly sensitive about it, then here's what you can do. Like, just get like any piece of paper that's in front of you, like cigarette packet maybe, an old receipt from a shop. Write down what offends you and like what you'd like done about it, and then just put it into like the nearest dustbin near you, and it gets to me. Okay, it's sort of like like if you put a piece of mail in the Royal Mail and like you put there's like a certain thing you can write on it where even if it doesn't have a stamp, it's like they legally have to deliver it to like the government or something. It's like that. Someone will find it in that dustbin and it'll get to me. And I'm my own boss, and so I'll probably like really think about whether I can represent my own business in this way, in this era, and I'll probably fire myself. So just don't worry, guys. It's still the same system's still in place. It's nothing to worry about. Okay, so going forwards, we've got Monte Cristo here, is my co-host. Used to coach CLG. Oh wait, I forgot we're not supposed to talk about that. He doesn't coach CLG. He never coached CLG. That's a
imposter.
In fact, actually, you never did, Monty, and it's something that nobody can deny. And anyway, all the epic memes we're getting into already. So yeah, he's a commentator for OGN, whatever is in fact left of that. It feels like it's a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
I don't even know what I'm commentating anymore.
Or when you're doing it, it's like at some point next year, we believe there's no... for real, I'm usually used to this exact period of time is when like OGN Winter's starting and I'm getting back into things, or the qualifiers. I'm like, okay, what about next season? But it's going to be a few months before we have any OGN.
No, we're going to have qualifiers next week.
Okay. And when does the actual league start?
We have to figure out the other two teams. There's going to be a big open bracket at Yongsan on Monday and Tuesday. And then next Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to be in Busan at G-Star, the big video game thing. We're going to be casting from the same place that the World Quarterfinals took place at, that same theater, to determine who are going to be the other two teams in the new season of Champions.
The World Quarterfinals? You mean where that scrim between TSM and Samsung White was broadcast accidentally on air?
That's right.
I don't know anything about that, Monty. I don't remember that day vividly. It didn't have any implications on the rest of my career or anything. Okay, anyway, and moving on. So Monte Cristo's my co-host here. Now, our guest this week, I feel like, there's a famous saying, actually, Monty, that Rome falls 8 times a day. You just have to know, like, where to look for it. And it's sort of like, it's a bit like Joyce with Ulysses, it's the notion that time and history is fractal in a way. So in a way, like the fall of the Roman Empire is kind of like the breakup of like a marriage or a work relationship falling apart. And these things have like a levels that they occur on, okay, that ripple across time and have different impacts and effects. So I feel like a lot of patterns actually do repeat. Some players in one team, they're very good at this one thing here, and they join another team and you see the same thing. So for example, N-Rated clearly has had like some sort of strategical impact on all his teams, and they've all gotten better in that sense, and they've had a better cohesive unit. So I feel as though the way this show is going to go today is that we'll start out and people won't expect much from us. They'll look at the names on the bill here and they'll be like, I've never really heard of that guy, like I sort of vaguely know who he is, so they won't expect much. But then eventually, like, they'll get to know him, and just his natural personality, I believe, will start to shine through, and suddenly the show will become all about him. And we'll have to like seed everything that we wanted, all our hopes and dreams. And the only way this show will be able to succeed, Monty, is if we put it all onto him. He has to do everything in this show if it's going to succeed. And then when it doesn't succeed, Monty, it will be our fault because we didn't work as hard as him. We're not as dedicated as him. And quite frankly, he deserves to be on a better show. So he's gonna leave this show and he's going to be on First Blood next week. And then once that happens, I think you can see where I'm going with the joke there. So our guest is forgiven. spelt with a 1, showing how edgy he is and that he's down with the kids and that he's
The number
possibly
one.
a hacker. In fact, perhaps, I don't know. So how you doing, Forgiven?
I'm pretty okay. Thank you guys for having me on the show.
How did you like the intro? Did you recognize any of that?
I recognized a lot of stuff, but if I comment on it, then Rated will appear, and you know what happens after.
Okay. So here's the thing, Forgiven. You used to play in Copenhagen Wolves, and then after that, there was this brief period where it was rumored you were going to join that new NIP team that Alexich was on, and then after that, officially, you've never played in any LCS team, okay? And now, technically, sorry, Alex, he technically doesn't play in an LCS team right now as this show is being recorded. So for the purposes of this show, what we're going to do, okay, is it's going to be sort of like an improv class, Forgiven. We're just going to like play around with a cool concept. And then your job, okay, in improv class, there's a rule that you're always supposed to say yes and. So whatever I say to you, Forgiven, you don't say, no, that's not true, that's not what's happening. You just say yes and then you continue as though the premise was correct. And that's what will make it fun and keep it flowing, okay? So just for the purposes of this episode, we're going to pretend that you're the new AD carry of SK Gaming. And you're going to say, yes, and I am. And then you're going to pretend, only pretend, it's all imaginary, for the rest of the show as if you were the AD carry of SK Gaming. You think you can go with this? I know it's hard to get your mind into such a crazy space. You think you can do it, Forgiven?
I don't know, man. Like, if I do it, then some people will come to my Skype and something really bad will happen. So I guess I maybe accept actually your proposal.
Okay,
so
yeah.
I don't know.
It's not real, remember, but I mean, let's start there, okay?
Okay.
Actually, let's start a little bit further back. When there was that period where I said, okay, you weren't in Copenhagen Wolves anymore, and then there was the brief rumour, like, okay, he's going to be part of that NIP lineup, and then after that, we didn't see anything. And actually, if you remember, Forgiven, I even used to message you on Skype, and I used to tell you, like, don't wait for some really good team to give you an offer, like, it might not come. Like, I always used to say, look at Pushu, like, everyone was hyped around him after Worlds last year, saying, oh, he's definitely going to get in a team. But supposedly, he even kind of admits he waited for, like, a really good offer, you know. And in the end, he waited so long that eventually he wasn't even on people's radar, you know, they didn't care anymore. Before you came on this show, and I hypothetically put you in SK, did you actually think, like, you were just only going to join a team if a top team asked you? Would you really have just quit your career if no top team had asked you to join LCS? Would we have just never heard of Forgiven again?
Yes, 100%. Like, I had no intention to play for a team that was going for a 6, 7, for 8th place in LCS, or in general, no achievement, no ambition place. And then I was inactive for like 3 or 4 months. Like, after June, I didn't play the league at all. At any part, like, I almost didn't watch Worlds, except the semi-finals and the finals. And then Kers came up along with my owner from my Copenhagen Wolves team, and like we won the meeting and stuff, and we did it. Then Piglet came available, but actually all what mattered is that my name resurfaced into the community, and the like team started to pile up into my Skype and Twitter or whatever, and now I'm in a position that I have to wait for something official, and I don't know how else to say it, actually.
So let me ask you this, Monte, as a general concept, not necessarily in Forgiven's case here, but if I was to ask you, because I don't know what your opinion on this is, we never talked about it actually. If you were in a position like Forgiven was, okay, and you played in the spring split last year, and actually, you know, you did well individually, people were saying like you were pretty good at your role, but maybe you're in his position, you don't want to play in a team that's actually going into relegations, you know, that doesn't have a chance to win the league. If just as a general concept, what would you think about the concept of just sitting out and hoping that you get a really good offer? Like, do you think it's better to play in a bad team and cope you again, kind of prove your skills? What do you think on this topic as a general idea?
It just depends on what the player wants, and since Forgiven is very dead set on either not playing at all or, you know, playing at a team that has a decent shot in order to do well, then that's just, for me, it's just a personal decision. I mean, if you're trying to keep your career active, then yes, I think it's better to at least play in a lower ranked team. But if you're willing to sacrifice your career because you don't care, unless you want to get on a better team, then I mean, that's what you're going to do.
But what are you leaving behind as a legacy? Like, you will just be another good, decent or bad AD carry that played in European LCS? I agree. You are practically a guy that just achieved the professional level of playing league. And that actually, while it matters, it actually also doesn't. Like, you're just basically a nobody. Like, if you don't win something, or if you, like, look at my example. There are many examples. Like, you could be the best player at your position, but if you have no team achievements, then what you are? You are just a trash. Actually, you are just a good player as a person.
That's a less eloquent version of Doublelift's line there, I believe. If you have no teammates and you're a good player, who are you? You're just a trash. I don't think they're going to be doing T-shirts with that. Quite frankly, it's not going to catch on.
What clarifies people
life.
is team's achievements. Like, it's not how good you are, or what are your outplays, or what are your plays inside the game, or how good you are as a personality. All that matters in the league is what are you doing as a team. Like, have you won LCS? Have you won NFL Extreme Masters Tournament with good teams and not, I don't know, like, for example, what Millennium won some time ago? That's all. That's my opinion, at least. I don't know if you guys agree or how do you see it.
Let me spin it the other way then, Forgiven. Does that mean you're saying that a player who's actually... Listen, this is obviously a subjective judgment. Well, that's what we're here on the show to do, is make our subjective judgments. If we find an AD carry who's actually worse than Forgiven is, and he plays worse, and actually the way he plays the game is worse, but he is in a better team and he wins and he has the team accomplishments, do you actually consider that guy better than yourself within your philosophy?
Yeah, 101%. Because he won. He has a title. He can now go to his friends. He can go to everyone. He can include his paycheck, and like, you see, guys, I have a title. I won it. I was part of something. We were 5 people into a goal. We were not one. It's not StarCraft. It's not anything. It's first 5, which means it's not only also a game, but you have to stick with these characters outside of the game, and you have to be a good personality, or a personality that helps people, or an incredibly good player, or a both combination of them.
Okay. Here's what I don't understand. I'll just get right into it. I'm not even gonna ease my way into this one, Forgiven. Here's the part I don't get about you. You seem to have some like contrasting personality or philosophy aspects that don't actually seem to, like, they don't resolve. Like, they just exist separately. So I'll break it down for you, okay? On one hand, you just said all that, which I buy into a lot. Like, I think it's really good, like the notion of like you should only go for like absolute success, and if you know like this in the short term this team's actually going to fail or whatever, then okay, don't accept that. Don't say, oh, I'll just play just because it's the best I can now. And the aim should be like, no matter who's in the team, it should be the team success and the unit. That's all great. But at the same time, it seems like when you actually were on Copenhagen Wolves, you've been like really generous to the players you were in that team with. Like, when I looked at that team, the one you were in, I used to say like, well, Forgiven's clearly the best player, and then yeah, actually Amazing's a pretty good player in that team. But I looked at the rest of the team and I was like, actually, the rest of the team's about where the team should be, like towards the bottom end of LCS. Some of them possibly not even in LCS, depending on who else is available and what teams could get promoted. But you actually seem now to kind of pull back from ever talking shit on those guys and still make out like, no, we could have made it as a team and we could have still been good. If what you said was true, okay, and some of those guys maybe weren't as dedicated or they weren't as fired up like you to try and be the best, and that's the only goal, why are you kind of so like forgiving of them now, to ignore the pun or whatever? Why doesn't it bother you now about those guys not being as into it as you were?
Well, as a person, I'm trying to be as much generous as I can to people that at first gave me a chance to be part of professional gaming. Like, okay, when you're a solo queue player, it's like, as I said before, it's like a ladder. You go from a solo queue player, go over to a challenger team, then you go to a LCS team, then you maybe go for a second place or third place, then you go higher, and then you go worlds. Like, you see, there is something going on. There is like a chain of events. And for example, when I was just playing solo queue, I was just a solo queue player, Youngback picked me up. He gave me a chance to play in LCS. I became famous, negative or not, or positive. But what I got back from these guys were not so much of good words and stuff. Like, I was almost disgraced by playing SW. Like, as much good as it did, it also backfired a lot, because like, I never said like I was like the guy that single-handedly carrying this team. I was part of it. I was a major part of it, but I was still a part of it. It's a 5 versus 5 game, and it's never 1 versus 5. Like, 1 month after I left, I was like, I heard almost on my team or the owner of my team saying that I was kicked while I was left. Then I heard that I was not a good player for the team and I didn't help them improve, while actually I was one of the reasons that this team shelled. Even before the relegation match against the Dialogue, we were almost torn apart, and then like something happened in Saturday, like the day before, and I was like, guys, there's something going on, we have a match tomorrow, so we better not fuck up, otherwise your career is over, your whole effort is over. And then and also this, and then none of my teammates said anything good almost, and that's all. Like, I try to be a good guy. I'm not a good guy, honestly, but I'm trying to be, and so
okay, when
I
you
was
say
very
that,
generous
though,
to these players, because they were part of our wins. Because if Counter, then if Young Bucket, if Unlimited or Amazing, or this team didn't try hard it, even if we had limits as players or as a team, when we would be like just another Dragon Ball NYN team with 5 wins and 25 losses.
Okay.
Nothing.
Right, so when you say that part there, actually, just to pick you up on something there, so the owner of Copenhagen Wolves essentially tried to like smear you by saying you'd been kicked when you actually left of your own volition?
Yeah. He said that. He just said, not the owner, maybe it was the players, I don't remember. There was some Facebook posts or some statements that like I was toxic and that I was kicked from the team, while after the matches ended, like I was like, I can stay. I was like, I can stay, but the team either has to go higher, which means the players have to either play better, or some of them, there should be some talks if they want to stay and if they can stay or not. Like, I remember, for example, that me, Amazing, and Unlimited were 100% in, but then Unlimited has this history with Youngbuck and Counter that I respected because they won everything it's answers in, and I was a small part of it in the end. And when Amazing got the offer from TSM, and I'm like, when I hear this, I'm like, okay, is there any other good player except Amazing that I can also rely to the team to improve and to have a guy to talk with and to have a guy that I can rely socially, and I have a guy that can be friendly with me and in general, because in the end the atmosphere in the team was not the best, but I was part of not being the best atmosphere, but not 100% as everyone can understand. And I was like, when Amazing leaves, and then when I realized that nothing is going to change, that we are going just to play another split when we are just maybe try to get wins and then avoid relegations, when I'm like, okay, you guys can play with another red card then. I have nothing to offer to this team, I will only harm you guys, so it's better for you to take another red carry and move on with your lives, and I do the same with mine.
Right, because this is actually a topic, a little side topic I want to just make a comment on, because it's something I've had on my mind recently, and I'm actually going to do something, but it'll be in CSGO, so most people who watch this show won't see it. So in CSGO, okay, there was a team where it's actually a team called LDLC, it's a French team, and they'd made it to the semi-final of one of the big majors of CS, but they were a team where they were just built around like tactics, and they had like good team play, but they didn't have the best players, okay. So a different team, a rival team of theirs from the French scene, broke up and took some of their players, and initially there was a big like scramble over who was going to get which players and how the rosters would end up. And during the period of the scramble, where this LDLC team doesn't know who they're going to get, their manager made a statement when it was officially announced that some of their players had left, where he sort of tried to smear them in the fashion you're talking about here. Okay, what he said like, these players are disloyal and we built something with them and they promised us, going forwards, like, because they were on our team, we thought we were going to be able to build something like for the next season and we'd all build it together. And the reason why this was really dirty, I thought, and why I'm going to do a topic on it, but now I'll relate it to League of Legends, is because this is actually really bad in terms of teams using the media in this particular way to smear a player's career, because it doesn't work both ways. There's a double standard here. So the double standard goes like this. We're the organization. We put money into you. We let you play for our team. Maybe you were no one before you came to us and you played for us and you accomplished things. Therefore, and here's the part they don't put in, therefore you owe us. You have to stay on our team. You have to stay until we say you can leave. And until that moment, if you leave, you're unloyal, which, by the way, is like a pretty big moral judgment to make about a person. You're kind of like, you're disrespectful to like what we did for you. You're ungrateful that we gave you this money and this Here's the problem, okay? Spin it the other way around. Imagine the same player has been in the exact same circumstances. He's been with this team for a while. He's put in his work with the team. On his side, he's done work for that team. He's helped the team get good to where the point they're at now. And maybe either someone offers him a better contract. Well, obviously in that scenario, he should be able to leave if he can get a better contract elsewhere. That's actually part of the rights of a player. But think about it from the team's perspective. Say that same player, was playing badly, and he has a 3-month span where he's really bad and his game's really dropped off. Do you think they're going to not kick him on the basis that, well, we built this together and we're really loyal to you and we're friends and we respect you? No, they will kick him, and you know what they'll say? They'll say it's business. That's just business, mate, when we kick you. So when they kick you, it's just business. We don't need you anymore. We can get anyone. Well, that's the way the scene works, mate. But if you leave for something better, it's always spun that way, as like you're disloyal and you don't respect. Like that, to me, that's kind of dirty. You have to pick one or the other,
The other problem, too, that comes with the territory is that if we look at traditional sports, players just have a lot longer careers and also are paid a lot more money. The amount of loyalty that's demanded for a relatively low pay, I mean, Riot's only offering like $25,000 a year plus whatever the team can scrape together, which on some of these smaller teams is not much money at all. Obviously, some of the bigger teams, it can be significant. Sure. But you don't have the time to wait around for a long-term rebuild. You know, the talent, if the talent's just not there in the team, then you can't just sit there as a great player and say, okay, well, in a couple of years, we could just eventually put together the pieces in order to get there. And in the meantime, I'm going to make a fat ass paycheck and just sit around here and make millions of dollars. Yeah. So who really cares? Doesn't happen in esports. And I think that the team's demands of the players and are vastly outsized for the most part with the amount of money that they're paying them.
What do you think, Forgiven?
Well, in general, there is also the background behind the shady stuff that goes behind the screens or behind the news, or people that don't know. Like, for example, what I mean by that is, I can divide it in two subjects. The first is, but yes, there is the business side, but there is always the human side. Of course,
sure.
There are contracts. Of course, everyone has to respect their contracts. I did, and I paid out. Well, what I mean by that is, like, as I said before, CW gave me one of the opportunity to become one of the best AD carries, if not the best, or in general one of the best players in Europe, or the trash, or one of the just decent players. Who knows? I don't care. Like, everyone can judge. But also, CW were going to be also the reason that I was going to stop playing League, because I was abided by their contract for 5 and 6 months, and only because their team or the organization feared that I was going to another team and I was actually going to seal their fate by dropping them into relegations. Like, I remember an example, but if you guys want, I'm sure you want to know, like, when I was an active player in CW, I heard that a player from my team went beside my back into Riot and asked if there was any poaching allegations by me and NIP while I was an active player in almost the playoffs. And like, I'm like, okay, my team actually went behind my back instead of asking me. And I always say what I think, and I think people already noticed, bad or not. And I was like, okay, my team like went behind my back, and I was almost not betrayed. But why didn't they ask me? And now why I'm kept under my contract when I can't play with this team, except if changes happen, or except if I like put 0 hours in the league and I don't give a fuck and I just go in there, earn my bad cash. I mean like unjustified cash. I wouldn't even deserve this money. But my time would be nothing, and like I would offer nothing to the team, nothing to the league, nothing to everyone that sees this game. I would just be another bad AD carry that played because they cared about the game. And I was like kept under my contract. I was almost going to end my career pretty soon, and when like, as I said, curse happened. And even though I didn't turn curse, it was fucking good for me actually, to be honest. Just that my nerves surfaced. And as I said before, to end, because I don't want to speak so much, as I said, there is also the human side, but in the end it's business and you have to respect the stuff. Like, you sign a contract, it says that you're obligated to play under this tag and do nothing for 1 year, and you're at the half of it. And like, look now what happens to Rekkles also. He's dissatisfied with his team, he wants to move on, and like he played with Fnatic for like 2 splits, he won 1. He finished second with the other. He was one of the best players in general, and like his organization is trying to keep him, although it won't happen.
I mean, without making a big deal out of this, because I don't have like 2 hours to talk about contract law, I actually think you might be a bit naive in what you're saying there, that you had to play because it said in the contract that it lasted this long. Like, from my discussions with people who know about law, essentially you're not allowed to like deny someone a livelihood by having a contract like that. Like, that sort of contract would not hold up in court unless they were paying you a salary every month to stay on the bench. That would be broken immediately if you ever took that to court.
But I stepped down from the active lineup, and I was just under the obligation that I can't join any other team.
Okay, but did you get a salary monthly while you were at
no.
Well, then I'm pretty sure that wouldn't hold up. I'm just saying it as a side point. It doesn't matter now
it
anyway.
Was part of my agreement with the owner.
Yeah, but there's actually a thing
to be released by NIP, but in the end I held my word and he held his too, and I was just waiting patiently for the
short version, Forgiven, is basically there's like an aspect in law where it doesn't matter if it says that in the contract. You're not allowed to essentially sign contracts that like fuck you over for the rest. Like I can't make you sign a contract now. Like, and you will work for me for 7,000 years for no money. It doesn't matter if you sign it, mate. It won't hold up if it ever went to court, because it's ridiculous terms, you know. So anyway, it's just a side point. I'm not getting into that. But let me ask you about this then. So there was a period in time where we saw these news stories that Forgiven is like being considered by curse because they'd got rid of COP officially. And did you how far did it go? Did you actually like play with them over the internet?
No.
Was it just discussions?
You know this can't happen, because if you play from Europe to the North American server, you will have close to 200 ping.
Okay,
and,
yeah.
And you're like,
1000, eh?
who would like playing one? And like we just had they poached my organization, which was CW.
Okay.
In October, I think. Like
October?
Or maybe earlier. September, October, I don't remember.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. Just for people to
understand.
We had a discussion like I was going to get an answer, and then Piglet came available and understood when people don't talk, when they want business inquiries and they want to discuss business, that I was not an option anymore. But I was poached by several other teams. Like I said before, one of the reasons that I play League is not money. Like I had offers from 30,000 euros from, of course, 30,000 euros, but who knows if we're gonna pay, right? Yeah. From Brazil and Turkey, and then the team that I'm supposedly going in, it may be in the end is CW, because CW are also kicking their players.
Don't bullshit me. When you saw that Piglet was taken instead of you, did you actually think like I could have been as good as like they should have taken me? I would have been better than Piglet.
I believe that if I
mean, you speak English for a start.
Part of the reason that I'm a decent player is that my ego or my mindset before playing the game or when I'm not playing the game is that, for example, if I get a good team, like if I get, for example, what a Fnatic or Alliance were, or what SK or what I don't know, Cloud9 is gonna be, I could be the best AD carry by far.
Okay.
And what I mean by best AD carry is not by just being best AD carry, not winning anything. It's just being AD carry, being a good AD carry, but also winning stuff.
Okay, so you want to be sneaky, not double lift. I get you. Okay, moving on.
He wants to be sneaky lift. It's the combination. He wants the flash with the teamwork.
I believe like I always had the power to alter games by myself, but with the help of my team. It was part of my ego and it's part of my psychology and my mindset. If you go into a game and you believe, oh, this guy is really better than me and I maybe lose, I should play a bit more careful, you're done.
Listen, Monty knows nothing about players with that mentality. He's never heard it before. It's an alien concept to him, quite frankly, you know. Anyway.
It's true, though. I agree to a certain extent with that mentality. But yeah, I mean, it is. I think it's difficult to be the best. Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting. It can be bad. It's how you actually take advantage of it. Simply as it seems.
What did you think, though, of the prospect of getting to play with Xpecial? Because from my experience, whenever I talk to AD carries, Western ones, the two people they want to play with is YellowStar and Xpecial. These are the ones where every AD carry, you can tell, because sometimes they don't even say that directly, but what they'll do is they'll be like, well, you can't compare me to that guy, he plays with YellowStar, and like that. They just say it as if, like, you know, if I had that guy, I'd be the best, you know. What would you have thought of the chance to play with Xpecial? Must have been exciting, right? Is there
not even a 1% chance that I wouldn't want to play with Xpecial? Are we kidding ourselves or something? He is supposedly the best support North America has ever brought out in the history of North America, of course, and an aggressive support, not a player that just sits behind his lane waiting for a team fight to happen and being 1,000 creeps, dragons, and towers behind. So.
Are you someone who needs like an aggressive support player, do you think?
Obviously. What do you think of Unlimited?
I don't think it's time for me to talk about what I think about Unlimited. I think he's a guy from Bulgaria who's like an average
It's time for you to actually determine your reputation right here. You have a reputation of speaking your mind, so why don't you?
I think he's a low-level support player who just did okay and just did what he could, and that's about it.
Yes, but were we not the best bot lane in Europe in the split?
Well, best is defined like between the two players.
Second best.
Yeah, I think you were top 3, yeah.
Then isn't he automatically one of the best European supports?
I think you're kind of getting into some murky logical territory there, mate, because that would also imply that Woong was one of the best AD carries when he was in there.
I'm just saying, like, the first 2 months with Unlimited were really trash. Like, we couldn't even, we were hit or miss lane, 15-0 or 0-15, and then suddenly we start picking our setup.
Okay, here's the problem here. We're really getting into a debate over, like, quality of player and, like, efficiency. So, for example, I'll give you a perfect example here. Cyanide is not even close to the best jungler in Europe. He will never be the best jungler in Europe. And if you judge just junglers, it would be ridiculous to state he is. But he probably at times has been maybe the most efficient. Like maybe he synergized the best with his solo lanes. Maybe he did the best approach for his team, and maybe he had the best like attitude for the team. I could believe that. That could be true. That doesn't make him the best jungler though. So it's like just separate the two. So I'm sure Unlimited probably had a good synergy with you and knew what you needed as a player and fit his game to work around that. But put it this way, if it really followed that he was some super good support player, then why does he need Forgiven? Just pop anyone in there and he'll be super good and they'll have the best bot lane. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that didn't happen, did it? That's a shame, isn't it? Yeah. Well, maybe next time. Maybe with the next guy he's with, eh?
I don't know, man. Like it's just
exactly. Yeah, you don't know.
I don't know what exactly to answer into this. Like, also my English don't allow me that much space to work with. But for example, what I mean by that is like, as I said before, we were playing like fucking trash for 2 months. Sorry for my swearing. But
why? Just keep talking. We don't care about swearing, man.
After a while, we created our bot lane. It's not that Unlimited learned how to play with Forgiven or Forgiven learned Unlimited how to play. It was both.
Okay, well,
something that we both liked. And what happens when both players like playing this particular playstyle?
Yep.
They automatically make it work, and they automatically make it work for everyone else, and automatically people have to follow it almost.
Okay, well that ends the Unlimited portion of this show for this week. I'm sorry we don't have more time for that. We'll keep moving on. And best of luck to Unlimited and making whoever else the best bot lane in Europe. We're sure it'll happen for you.
Good luck. Man.
So anyway, moving and also Forgiven. I'm quite worried about your career now because you're not playing with Unlimited now. So how are you going to possibly become the best? I mean, you've lost the best support in Europe there. Now you're going to play with this inferior fuck called nRated who hasn't even done anything in his career. I mean,
It may be it's Unlimited again, man. How do you know if it is SK?
Okay, no, I mean in the improv. Remember, you're playing with SK. So in the improv, another famous support player. Now you will improvisationally be playing with nRated. What would you hypothetically think of that Forgiven?
I think that if I was playing with nRated again, I would do what I did with Unlimited again. I would try to find not the chemistry, but the correct way to play the game. And it doesn't mean that I want the lane phase to be 10,000 creeps ahead. I'm not that kind of player. I adapt to every single stuff or paths or whatever is going to happen. It's part of the job we are actually doing. You can't be stuck into the same path. You can't, for example, play Akali 10 times per split, or for example, for other players, or you can't play Lucian every game and stuff. So you just have to work with this guy. You have to find the correct balance, and then you create your own bot lane, and there you are. It's how Doublelift and Aframo did it.
Enough about that. Monty, what did you actually think of the CandyPanda-nRated bottom lane? Because, I mean, you saw them at Worlds, you did some scouting of them.
I think they had a very low amount of synergy. I mean, I know, I talked
Monty,
to...
didn't you put Candy Panda above Wild Turtle, bro? Didn't you rank him on a Riot broadcast above Wild Turtle? I'm just bringing that up.
I do think that as an individual player he's better, but I do think as a duo lane that TSM's was better. But that was not the question that was poised to be at the time, right?
Yeah, but neither of them, not nRated or CandyPanda, were famous for their mechanical plays, like for their ability to dominate lanes and have synergy, like and play 50 to 50 matchups, win 50 to 50 matchups, or winning 65 to 35 matchups. And what I mean by that is like I will give the most easy example in the history of League of Legends, in my patch. Okay? Caitlyn Karma against... Put whatever you want, literally. Put whatever bot lane combination you literally want. Like, let's say the most famous was Lucian Annie back then, right? Do you know that Caitlyn Karma could drive these guys 50 CS behind if played properly? Take the tower, take 2 dragons, and then...
Well, you have the poke in the early... you have the poke in the early game range there, so...
Yeah, but this translates, if you play it properly, into 3,000 gold. By taking towers and dragons and creeps.
You know, I'd love to actually go to
Continue
this.
with your.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I'd love to go to this imaginary world where you, Wicked, Hotshot, and FORG1VEN and Doublelift all live. Where it's like Narnia. Actually, you have to access it somehow. It's called like if you play it out correctly. It's this imaginary world where certain matchups just always win, and certain ones that look really good, and like science lies and tells us numbers that they're winning matchups. Like Draven's really good. None of these things are true actually. In if you play it out correctly, it's just that unfortunately, once you get to like Narnia or whatever, sometimes like the portal changes and you can't quite get back there. And if you could, you'd show the world. But anyway, continue, Forgiven. with your fucking Karma Caitlyn 3,000 gold winning bot lane every game. Okay, keep playing that out, bro. Keep going.
I'm just stating facts. I'm not saying random things. Like if you want, you can set the stuff. What I'm saying, like put out a BOD from
so where are we going here
speed
with
or summer speed.
N-rated CandyPanda?
I want to know where you're going with this.
N-rated CandyPanda. What would this apply to?
No. You give their both not famous mechanical players. You give them an even worse matchup for them. What do you expect to happen? You put these guys against Uzi and his support 0, I think. What do you expect to happen? Do you expect them magically to go 2-0 and destroy Uzi and 0? No, this won't happen. And why? Because they're not mechanically good. And why did SK removed either the support or either the AD carry? Because they didn't have synergy in the lanes. And what are you hearing every single time people, professional players or not, speak about bot lanes? That laning phase doesn't matter, and it's all about the teamwork and the synergy behind the team. Bullshit. It is. It does. Lane phase does matter. Lane phase.
Yeah.
Best
to
example.
go back.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Go.
Best example. Lemon Dogs, 2013. Here you go. The best win ratio in the history of European LCS, I think, along with Fnatic in their previous.
No, that's wrong. Alliance just did it now.
So okay.
They weren't anyway. It doesn't matter anyway. They got like 19 wins, man.
They were playing lane dominating champions.
Sure.
They did one good team fight. They had already the advantage. They didn't even give a fuck. They just won the game plainly.
Well, to be fair, I do think that the game has evolved substantially since that point, and laning phase is less of an issue now than it used to be. But yes, I do agree that that was a particularly weak lane in the laning phase, and I think that SK was at their best during lane swap situations. And to go back, it's not like Wild Turtle is known for his spectacular laning phase either at Worlds. So, but I think Lustboy is a much better mechanical support than N-rated is. Anyway, just to go back to what you were saying, Duncan, about what my rankings and all that other shit were, which was like, whatever anyway. But
Wild Turtle's a better player than CandyPanda, come on. He might have had a shit month and a half or whatever, but as a player, overall, I think he's better than CandyPanda.
I'm a Doublelift fanboy, I can't answer.
I think I can agree with that in retrospect. But anyway, moving beyond that and talking about the changes that were taking place in SK. I mean, I do know some things that I don't want to talk about kind of what I know about that bottom lane, but I will say that they had trouble getting synergy and developing synergy together, and so I think it's at least one of them needed to go in that situation in order for them to fix the issues that they were having with their bottom lane. So it doesn't surprise me that this change would have happened within SK to make room for either a new AD carry or a support.
Okay, so if you were to hear this news, that I remember hypothetically, FORG1VEN is now going to replace CandyPanda, who's been removed from the team anyway, and he will be in the new bot lane with N-rated. What would your initial thoughts on that be, Monty? What would you expect from that? What kind of style should they play? What do you think? Would it suit N-rated style to have aggressive AD carry? What do you think?
I mean, it just depends. I think that it's been a long time since N-rated has been able to efficiently work with an AD carry, so it's really difficult for me to theorize about this. Knowing N-rated personally, I think he's a very mature player. I think he's very committed to his team, and so the new AD carry will depend entirely, I think, on how much they duo queue. How much they communicate. I think N-rated is a player that will only flourish with a very close relationship with his AD carry. I think that's the only way, because again, he's not mechanically outstanding, but he makes up for that, I think, in terms of his strategic mindset, his work ethic, and his ability to, his commitment to synergy. So
I think historically, though, that's a huge factor he's got going for him. I think N-rated actually shares a quality here with Xpecial, that if you look in their history of their careers, every AD carry they play with, even if they're drastically different styles of AD carry, they always do get good synergy with them all. And they can be different styles, and they always figure something out.
I mean, I think the synergy with CandyPanda was really not there.
Yeah.
But I think that there were a lot of factors going into that. And I think that it's important for SK to find somebody who nRated can develop that synergy with. But I think that nRated's work ethic will really allow him, to give it a fair shot, for sure.
If you said before, when I asked you about Xpecial Forgiven, like who wouldn't want to play with him? Like I need a support that can be aggressive to like make me the best I can be and all that sort of thing. Does nRated actually fit this build? But when you used to watch him play with CandyPanda, did you ever think what it would be like to play with him or what you might do?
No.
I would say no, but I don't think he's incapable of learning.
Exactly. Everyone has their areas that they can improve and either become the best, and they can actually learn from their weaknesses and actually take advantage of their weaknesses by not even existing anymore. Or like taking advantage because someone else thinks that you're a bad player and you have only 2 champions. Okay, let's abuse it. Okay, we just wasted 2 bans on you. There you go. 2 bans for free from your up team. Well, it's just a very general example, a very retarded one, sorry actually. So I guess time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell. And I have to say, if you had to take a player in League of Legends that I know and say, will this player be able to adapt? Will this player does this player have the work ethic, the attitude, the team-focused mentality in order to make a change? I think nRated would be one of the top players that I would say, yes, he does.
You should guys also think that nRated has played with Lamia, CandyPanda, Rekkles, and many other AD carries I don't even remember, or we don't remember, so there you go.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, anyway.
Yellow Star as well.
Yes.
Right. Some other EU moves. So Gambit, this one's pretty quick. So Kubon was released. They added this guy Cabochard as the top laner.
I have no idea who this guy is.
Chrisland officially joined, but then bizarrely renamed himself to Pinoy with a 1. It's the idea that he thought, well, Chrisland's a shit alias, isn't it? I know. I'll name myself Pinoy. What does that mean? Don't worry about that for now. Okay, how do I spell that? That's like P-I-N... No. P-1-N-O-I... Okay. Like, what kind of masterclass? Anyway, FORG1VEN. What do you think of Gambit's changes? You must know more than us.
I think Gunza should have already have went away from one split ago or before.
Now listen, you shut your whore mouth. What do you mean by that? What do you mean he should have already gone away? Why?
I think to clarify what I mean, I respect Gunza for what he was, and he was a player that defined what European AD carry should have been played back then in season 2, early season 3, but up to it, and like his builds, this. Varus, Legolas build and the Rekkles, Lateran AD carries and all stuff, and in general a very good style for AD carries, but after a while he lost his interest. Maybe, in the end it's Gambit had to fly 3 times a week to Germany every time, so I can get if people get tired of it and they don't want to play League anymore. They are even professional players, they are already playing the game for 4 years, 5 years, I don't remember. And for the top lane, I don't know, actually. I don't know if there are improvements into Kubon's place. And what I mean by improvements, I mean by famous improvements, or like, we can get to soloq, Yeah, you see?
You don't know if they were upgrades, basically.
You take Cabochard, it doesn't sound the same. And it's obviously not the same.
Sure. No, to be fair, actually, I just remembered you said you're a Double F fanboy, so I don't know why I'm asking you why you don't think Genji's good. Okay, enough of that. Another team in Europe, okay. We'll keep going through the not as famous teams. So Super Hot Crew. Now, at the moment, this one is actually really up in the air. Like, no moves have definitely been announced, but all the rumors were, the official one was they were going to have Amin, this like 17-year-old jungler who'd played with Nip before. He was going to join, but then he actually officially said he isn't going to join. He's going to go to school or something. So then at the moment, the rumor before, one of them was that Xmithie would join, but that apparently is up in the air as well. And so a possible one, I haven't actually seen an official rumor on this, but a possible one that could happen is Amazing needs a team. So people are saying maybe Amazing will join Super Hot Crew as the jungler. Now, you actually played with Amazing, you know him, Forgiven. Would this be a good team for Amazing?
Depends on if Super Hot Crew's personalities are likable to him.
What sort of personalities do you think a team should have to fit Amazing? What does he need?
People that can communicate first, and people, what I mean communicate is like, hey, how are you? Thanks. Okay, fine, bye. Not this, obviously. Like people that can communicate inside and outside the game. People that can understand his needs as a teenager, like he's 70, 80 years old, I don't even know.
Okay.
And also people that can be practically good in the game, that can give him space to work, like he went from CW to TSM. You already have your point there, like just purely different stuff. Like
so do you think that, so if they had the same solo lane as Mima and Selfie, would these two fit with Amazing? Do you get the sense?
I don't know, because the patch is going to change also along with the map, and this is the first time that Riot implements so many changes, but I think it will be better than Counter than the Youngbuck, so there you go.
Okay.
Well, the other thing too that we need to talk about with junglers in the upcoming, I mean, the jungle position is going to change entirely. Like, it changes more than any other position.
And you know what I heard about it? I heard that a German player that is going possibly to join Super Hot Crew stated that if these changes are going through, then I'm going to become the best jungler in Europe. And I don't know, how do you react about it?
Was he a guy that Monte coached?
No, not this German guy. Not this German guy.
Not Dexter.
The guy we mentioned before. But yeah, jungle is going to change.
Amazing?
Again. Yes.
Are you? No, I've got to stop you there. This can't be true. Happen. I don't possibly believe that someone like Amazing, a player who, as famously, can only play 2 champions, would ever kind of arrogantly proclaim that he would become the best, or his team would become the best, or something hypothetically. If hypothetical X was to take place, then hypothetical scenario Y would happen. So that just sounds completely out of the realm of reality there, Forgiven. How could you even suggest such a thing?
No, I didn't suggest it. It was someone else saying it. What came from his mouth?
Yeah, the thing about the new jungle is, I mean, it's going to be crazy to see what changes take effect, but it's going to take some very smart junglers in order to figure out what the optimal builds are, because and optimal pathing is, because there's so many options now and how you use that smite and how you which champions you play. But it seems pretty certain that junglers are now going to have a pretty substantial champion pool just to make things work.
Oh dear! See, you just hit on a nerve right there, Monty. You remember? Let me just put those two facts together, Monty. I like to put things together so people can kind of see what we're talking about. So on one hand, Monty, in my left hand, I'm holding what you just said there. That in the new patch, because of the changes, you'll probably need to have quite a significant champion pool. You know, people won't initially know what to play, maybe even the builds. They'll have to adapt to the game. So on one hand, remember that. Keep that in mind, folks. You need to have quite a significant champion pool. On the other hand, we have Amazing, famous for playing 2 champions, having a terrible win rate on other. And he thinks that when this new patch comes, he's going to be the best jungler in the world.
To be fair to Amazing, he did improve and did debut new champions over the course of NA playoffs and Worlds. Would I say was he spectacular? No, he was very mediocre, hit or miss on some of these champions. But I mean, that also, I don't think you can look at that in isolation either, because all junglers have been pretty limited in terms of potential champions.
Bullshit. Was Cacao limited? Was Dandy limited?
I mean,
was Jankos limited?
They were limited by the meta, but they have.
Was Isle Dominate limited?
They were able to pick up champions like Nocturne and Rengar when they were good late in the season.
Almost everyone else in the league, Monty, in all these different leagues, who was considered a good jungler, who you'd have on your list, like top Korean junglers, they all had that 3rd or 4th, or they had like a 4th that was a pocket pick that they didn't use that often, but they could get away with it, you know.
The point is that it's probably going to be insufficient now to have 3 or 4 champions. You probably are going to have more. Again, it totally depends on how. I don't really know yet. I mean, nobody knows. Nobody knows what junglers are going to be viable. No one on this planet. So until we start seeing some experimentation, but at the same time, okay, look. I love the new changes. Okay, I love the jungle position, because I think it opens up so much strategic versatility.
Can you give an example or something that you're thinking of when you say that?
Okay. Well, I mean, there's so many things. So it's like, how do you path now? Okay, how do you go through the jungle? Which creeps do you smite? for which champions, depending on what your composition is. You know, it's like, do you need that wolf-like spirit to guard your blue buff temporarily? When do you smite that wolf? Because do you do that because you're going to leave your blue buff for a little bit because you want to go gank a lane, or because you're going to go counter jungling and try and get their blue buff? Like, the number of strategic outcomes based on the new ability for smite alone is astounding. Then you roll that into the 4 new jungle items. Then you roll that into the new enchantments, and you have just a staggering number of strategic options that not only affect the jungler, what jungle champions you can play, but how those champions play, and then also how you play those champions and how you build them based on your lanes, based on your team composition. I mean, it is truly staggering, the number of
Yes.
basically decisions junglers have to make right now. And in my mind, this makes jungle, like, I would have already said that jungle is probably the hardest position in the game because it differs the most from solo queue to professional play, but it is undoubtedly now the hardest position in the game.
But by the same logic, wouldn't you always be in favor of changes to the game then that affect jungle? Because the same exact principles would apply that you just said there. Keep changing it every season. Every season, let's have a new thing, a new path thing, and new champions to have to be played, new items. This is good for you, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I like more activatable items too. I think that's how you affect the rest of the game more, and I like that we're seeing more activatables because I think it makes the game much more dynamic and allows you to compensate and change your strategy on the fly, you know, and react to the other team in a really interesting way. But I mean, the jungle changes, yes, there have been jungle changes every season. I do think it's a great way to mix up the game. It also makes it extremely difficult to play jungle. And that position is, I mean, unless these jungle changes are, you know, like 2 of the items are not really going to be viable or something like that, or, you know, some of the smite options just don't end up being that useful. But if all things being equal, if all of these things are viable choices, it is mind-boggling the number of choices you can make as a jungler now with these changes.
So to put a cap on the Super Hot Crew one, yeah, actually that probably is a good destination for Amazing. And actually with some of the junglers that are already locked up, like apparently I think Jankos is already locked up with Rockat. Shook's probably not leaving Alliance. That actually there's not that many places that you can get a jungler now. It probably makes sense for Amazing to go to a team like Super Hot Crew. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I've got a question for you. As an AD carry, Forgiven, these persistent rumors never die out that Rekkles is going to join Alliance. So if we imagine that it happened, what do you think Rekkles on just Alliance? We're not going to change any other members in this scenario. It's just going to be 4 members of Alliance and then add Rekkles as AD carry. What would that be like, do you think?
I would have kept Tabs 101%.
Why?
Not because Rekkles is a bad player. The contrary, he's one of the best, if not the best currently, and I can't say if he's the best. Like I always thought, for example, that MrRallez and Tabs are better than Rekkles. And one bad is like Tabs.
Wait. Listen, I'll let you take that point on forwards. I'll store that in my mind. But this is where I have to remember that we did an interview, okay, called The Reflections. And in this interview, I ask you, like, is Rekkles overrated? Do people hype him too much? And you say, like, no, he's the best Western AD carry, and he could be one of the best. He could be the best AD carry in the whole world. Yet at the same time, you were thinking that MrRallez was better than Rekkles. Please explain.
Yes, and I still think it.
Okay,
like,
please explain, friend.
Would you, if you put MrRallez in the same team Rekkles head, would he had won LCS 2 times or 1 time?
You told me. You're the one who said that MrRallez is better.
Yes, 100%. He's, he's just a better player, not by potential, by having the current ability to do that. And what I mean by that is, like, if you put MrRallez in a good team right now, he will play really good when he is playing right now.
And I mean, if we put MrRallez with Unlimited, then they'd just take over the whole world. That bot lane there, just what can you even do at that point? Anyway, keep going. Keep going.
What I'm going to say is that Rekkles has insane potential as a 22-year-old player.
Oh God, I'm so sick of potential.
But what? No.
Potential's like my fat girlfriend telling me that she's going to lose a load of weight and get into that dress. It's like, yeah, okay, darling, have another cupcake, for fuck's sake.
What's Rekkles' biggest flaw is that he can't take advantage of his potential. He can't utilize.
They never can. That's the problem for Gambit. These fellas with all this potential. Again, it's over in that, like, if you play it out correctly, Will, they can't find the portal.
It's not my responsibility.
Honest, man,
to make
I was there once. It was amazing. There was candy on the trees and everything. I can't get back there. How do I get there?
It's not my responsibility to make Rekkles the best AD carry in the whole world. He could be. I'm just saying he could be. And I'm also saying he's not bad. I'm just saying he's not also overrated. I just think, by myself, it's FORG1VEN's opinion. It's not Rated opinion. It's not Thorin opinion. It's not Monte opinion. I'm just saying that by playing against these people constantly for 6 months or for 1 year, I believe tabs would still be a better player in Alliance. I'm not saying again that Rekkles is a bad player for Alliance.
He's better for the team.
So I'm curious, when you talk about tabs being better, do you think he's better because of his play style? Because he's a very different player than Rekkles, right?
Tabs is the most smart AD carry player I have ever played against.
He's very consistent, but he's also very conservative. And as far as AD carry players go, he's much more willing to build defensive items early if his team is ahead. You know what I mean? Like his huh? Yeah, exactly. No. But I'm just saying, like, Rekkles isn't a player who's going to do that. Rekkles is like a big-time carry player, and I feel like Tabs is more of a team-playing AD. You know, he plays for the situation. He plays very conservatively. He makes conservative decisions, whereas Rekkles sometimes, you know, he goes out for the big play, you know, to make the flashy. So I can see why you're saying this as a choice for Alliance, because in general, they are, as a team, relatively risk-averse.
Dude, they're the most risk-averse Western team.
Yeah, they're ridiculous.
By far, right?
I'm sorry, one more question. If you had the power to change Alliance right now by witnessing how they played in the Worlds, would you think that Tabs was the reason these guys failed?
No.
And I said in the reflections for Thorin, do you remember Thorin? I said in reflections that no European team was going to pass above the round of 8, and they didn't even make it, obviously, there. But I'm just saying, and Monte said it right now, do you think that there was... But Tabs was the reason.
Okay, what address do I make the medal out to for being able to guess that sOAZ wouldn't last hit that Nexus? Because I mean, that's amazing predictions. And then also to know that Kaboom would beat them. You're like the new Chroms, dude. How do you do it? How do you do it, FORG1VEN? Okay, anyway.
Anyway.
No.
I wanted to hear
he said that a European team wouldn't make it beyond the round of 8. He said that was his prediction, not that they would make it to the round.
There is a vote. You can go see it. But anyway, Monte Cristo, because I didn't hear you, sorry. And
no.
Thorin interrupted again. I said.
I mean, maybe you don't make any changes in that team, but I do think
you certainly do if you want to go higher. If you want to go higher,
I think you have to. I don't know.
I can't even believe what I'm hearing here, Monty. Listen, I realise we're on a show and like the public are watching and all that. Did you really just say you wouldn't make any changes in Alliance to do better at Worlds?
I would.
Are you feeling okay, buddy?
No. To do better at Worlds, yes.
You're a big fan of Wicked, are you? Big fan of NIF?
No, I'm not. But I think to make changes to go further at Worlds, yes. I think they're like Cloud9, where they will be very stable in the EU LCS.
So they're happy kind of just to win LCS again, you think?
Maybe. I don't really know what the mentality is within the team. Yes, if you do need, I think Alliance's big problem is that they lack sufficient playmakers. Shook is a playmaker, but only on one champion.
Listen.
Pretty much, on Lee Sin. Otherwise, and FORG1VEN is very consistent, but he's also not the biggest playmaker in the world. And so where is your playmaking potential going to come from, really, on that team? And I think that, sure, they're smart and they are conservative and they can wait it out until you make a mistake, and they're very good, and that's translated into a 75% win rate. But to go to Worlds and to win, you need some playmakers on that team. So I can understand, well, okay, I wouldn't have traded out Tabs because I don't think they need a playmaking AD carry. I think it'd be much better to have a flashier support or a flashier jungler or a flashier top laner, as it were. But I think that some player needs to get shipped out in order for them to actually like input a very flashy star player in that role, because that's really what the team lacks, in my opinion. And every team that does well at Worlds has a flashy player.
And if you have to change someone, who would it be?
Well, we've already, Monty just said he wouldn't change AD carry. So there's 4 positions left.
Okay.
Someone had to.
FORG1VEN, it would depend on who was available in the free agent market, right? But I wouldn't be averse to cutting Wicked, Shook, or NIF, depending on who was available. Because you have to take it like, there is something to be said for the stability of that team in terms of their conservative play and their consistency. So it would really depend on, of those three positions, where is a really good player who's available.
See, I feel like
this is also a fact, but still, if you had to change someone, would it be, for example, I give you this. If I was their manager and I had to make a choice, I would actually replace either the support, either jungle, or either both. If I wanted to go higher,
jungle or support, you're saying?
Because this lineup again with Rekkles can easily win European LCS again. Doesn't even matter who are we going to play against.
Okay, before we go on, I need to get my joke in here. So this is the joke I thought of while Monty was talking. He was saying like Alliance didn't have a playmaker who was making flashy plays, who can engage for them, who can make the plays. Now come on, I won't hear that said, Monty. They had a guy who played the top lane, and this guy, I've seen him flash into 4 people, start a fight, say like, guys, follow me. He's like Braveheart. He's like, freedom, and then he runs in. And then listen, I've seen him play lane, and he doesn't play safe for the late game money. He goes in, and if he dies, he comes back. And you know what? He's mastered that solo queue mentality. I died once, well, I'm going to get those kills right back. I'm going to go right back in again, 1v1. That's how we win this. We're making plays, Monty. We call him Wicked Shakespeare. He writes the plays, Monty. What's wrong with you?
I don't actually think that is a true depiction of Wicked's play.
Obviously not. It's a fucking joke, isn't it?
But anyway, I mean, Wicked has the same problems Wicked has always had, which is a very shallow champion pool. So I think the champions he's good on, he's very solid on, but...
So the short version of what we're essentially saying here is adding Rekkles to Alliance won't particularly change anything.
No, it'll change things. I don't think that would be the change that I would make. That's it. Like, I agree with... there's something interesting about Alliance in having Tabs and FORG1VEN together as your carries that are both like really conservative. And like I think that if you add from the tankier positions some more flashy players that are good at peeling for those guys, that it would benefit you a whole lot. Because everybody's so stable right now in terms of the laning phase, and in terms of just in terms of like they're very... It's very easy for them to go even with you and to kind of just like drag the game out. So if that's the case, if you are confident in your ability to go even early, then add somebody who could actually make some flashy plays later. And yeah, Rekkles will do that, unquestionably. But I just don't see that it's very necessary for them to have Rekkles when a bigger upgrade in my mind would be at a different position. Not to say that Rekkles won't be an upgrade. It's just an upgrade. Like, what is the level of the upgrade? It's like perhaps a small upgrade as opposed to like a major upgrade.
Forgiven, let me put a theory to you, okay? I actually think I'm seeing this differently than both of you. Because on one hand, okay, I'll just say it like this. I don't think Alliance with Rekkles, if he joins, if they keep the same team and they just put Rekkles instead of Tabs, I don't think they will be better than the old version. And here's why. Because I actually think that Tabs doesn't want to be conservative. I think he felt like he was handcuffed because he had Nif, who is an ultra-conservative support. And he wanted to be the playmaker. He wanted to win the laning phase and to dominate the lane and to do... He wanted all this, but a mixture of having that support player and then also the nerves of like... being one of the few people who can engage in fights and that conservative stuff. I think all of that together made Tabs look like this conservative player. So I think that alone isn't a good reason as to why Rekkles would be better, because I actually think Rekkles is going to come in the team. Rekkles has already shown his own trend of not necessarily getting involved with like the team aspect of the game, playing quite individually, but not as like, not the double of style, like individually, but I'm going to carry the whole game. Sometimes just having no game impact. So put him with an even more conservative support, where before he had a wonderful aggressive support in Yellow Star, who's totally willing to go for those trades. I actually think Rekkles is going to have less of an impact, unless Rekkles somehow revolutionizes his game and he decides, right, I have to be a super duper carry. But as it is right now, I think it'd be worse. What do you think of this, Forgiven? Am I off base?
Well, I could imagine taking Rekkles into Alliance if I had a different support in Alliance too, like maybe Yellow Star, maybe bring the duo bot together, or maybe bring an equally good support that can train AD carries to a certain extent, like for example what Gosu Pepper used to do with soloq AD carries, not with Gunza.
Okay.
Like he just picked them out. They had like good mechanics, but Pepper didn't care. Like he would pick Fresh or Blitz, go ham level 1, kill the lane by himself, and let the AD carry do all the stuff alone then. Yet, I mean, just that Surely Rekkles is a mechanical upgrade, but as I said before, because I have played against these players for a really long time, and in my mind I can actually figure out now who was the best, and I mean who I appreciated the most playing against, and it was certainly Tabs. Like, he's by far the most smart player I have ever played against. He's maybe not obviously the best mechanical player, or he's maybe conservative, like he had NIF, but as I said before also, when you are playing in a duo bot lane, playing good with your support is also your responsibility. You don't expect everything from the other guy. You have to put out your hands in the fire too, somehow.
Okay, I'm not sure that actually translates into English. Like, you have to put your hands in the fire too. Like, if there's one thing I was taught as a boy, forgiven, it was definitely don't put your hands in the fire. That was one of the first things my parents instilled in me. Anyway, jokes aside. So let me ask you this then, to tie everything you just said together, forgiven. You made these comments before about what it might be like if you had Rekkles in Alliance and what you thought of Tabs and MrRallez. So let me tell you this, in a hypothetical world, okay, I'm putting Rekkles onto Alliance, I'm putting Forgiven onto SK. Now I've got a team left who need an AD carry. Now listen, you've spoke very highly right now of MrRallez. If I put MrRallez onto that Fnatic team, so you keep the rest of the team identical, but MrRallez is the Fnatic AD carry, you just said you thought before he was better than Rekkles or could be better than him. Well, if you think Rekkles can be one of the best in the whole world, then you also, the thought must carry, right? You think that MrRallez on a good team like Fnatic, he could be the best Western AD carry. True or false?
True.
Why?
Because, except the fact that he has the ability, he has the, let's say, potential intensifies, okay, I don't care. Like, he has the ability, he's talented enough, he works, he plays the game, he's committed, he doesn't play Hearthstone like some other people from a guy that makes the show here, used to play all the time in a very good team, you know? Okay. He's committed. He plays League 24/7. He thinks about League 24/7, not as a nerd, but as a professional player.
Well, no, he's definitely a nerd if he thinks about League 24/7. I'll just correct you there.
Let's say he's a nerd.
Okay,
Rallez has definitely the ability, but there is also the trend, as we said before again. Would you like to see Rallez with Yellowstar or Tabs with Yellowstar? Would you rather see, for example, in hypothetical alliance, Tabs with Crepo, or Rallez with NIF or Crepo? Where you go?
I've got a question for you, Forgiven.
Your comparisons are, yeah.
I like all the stuff you're saying here. It makes a lot of sense, but here's where it doesn't make sense to me. So you like Rallez's game, you liked him in Super Hot Crew, and you're explaining how it's the job of an AD carry to synergize with the support, whoever that might be, and make it better for the team and make it work and to find a way to be effective, and together they can be the best bot lane, even if Thorin thinks the support's total trash and the AD carry is really good. Together they can, the power of friendship, they can join together like a really shit transformer, going with a really good transformer, becoming a slightly better transformer, but not an amazing one. They could do all this, Forgiven. But if all of that's true, then why didn't MrRallez do what Forgiven did and become a monster in Super Hot Crew and just dominate even with a not the best support in Europe? Why couldn't he do what Forgiven did?
Well, I can't compare Rallez to myself. I let other people do that. Why? Because it's biased.
Do it,
I will be biased.
Do it
no,
now.
I don't
be biased.
You will do it. You are biased.
Be biased.
You're biased. You're one of the most biased people to ever.
Okay. We just had a biased chicken off there, Monty. Did you see that game of biased chicken we played there?
Okay. Rallez played in Super Hot for 2 splits, right?
Yeah.
Rallez.
Yep.
Who was the power force there? Was Moops? Was it Mimer? Was it Selfie? Was it
who was the carry, you're asking?
Yes. Who was the guy that, if you played against this team, you would like to shut down? To not give this team a hope, a slim hope of winning this game?
You're going to say it's MrRallez.
Because it was MrRallez.
No, it wasn't. It was Salfi the last split. And I think before that, it was probably fucking Mima, because if you shut him down, you shut the whole team down, it's over.
Okay, I can...
Yes, sir, yes.
I actually don't agree with that, but
okay,
as I said before, Selfie played against, there was a match, Super Hot Crew against SK, I think, in my split. Well, I go again 5 months ago.
Okay.
And Selfie was playing in Italy, and it was a relegation match. It was like a relegation match. Like, if Super Hot Crew won this game, they could have won against us, and then they would be changing history for them, because they wouldn't play in relegation. Okay. And like, Selfie was in Italy, and CandyPanda had Jinx in this game, and like they were sitting in the third tower in mid lane, and Selfie was in Cougar form and he tried to jump over the traps of Nidalee. Subahotkuk were 7k ahead almost, and they get aced. SK get Baron.
You mean the traps and Jinx, yeah, the chompers. Okay,
yes.
yeah.
Then SK get another ace and the game end, and Subahotkuk end up in relegations, which Selfie obviously dominated H2, the greatest tilt team of all time, which is H2K. But you have your answer here. You can't rely on people that are inexperienced and that they haven't showed the immense potential of carrying a game 1 vs 5 if they are ahead.
Right, wait.
I remember many games.
So wait a second. So MrRallez couldn't dominate like Forgiven did because everyone knew if you play versus his team, you just shut down that bot lane, you win the whole game. That's exactly what everyone knew on versus your team, motherfucker.
Yes.
How did you dominate?
But some people are just more talented, or they just
some of them are called Forgiven and some of Manta's talented. They're called MrRallez. You're right. We've got to the bottom of it finally.
Some people, no. I also have to add something on it. Some people have better supports, and some people don't build.
Some people are the best even with unlimited, and some people aren't the best even with a better player.
Some people also don't build every single time the 6th cancer item, which, sorry for the word, the 6th bad item, which is called Pansy's Veil. You don't always go on really carry a defensive item when your team is behind and you need
Are you
damage.
really going to boil it down to MrRallez wasn't the best AD carry? Listen, he wasn't the best AD carry in Europe because he used to build Last Whisper instead of Banshee's Veil in a time when defensive...
I'm just saying that
what are we going with
at some point, AD carries in the game have to risk dying for their team. You can't always go...
Yeah, dude, I'm loving what you're saying right now. That's what MrRallez and Rekkles do not do.
Dude, can you hear me please? You can't always go 11-0-4 and then wonder why you lost the fucking game because you didn't make the fucking necessary play to win the game by dying for your team. You have a guy that will get focused.
It's the way he's... by the way, Monty, like his dad's like sleeping or something, so he can't go too ham. That's why he's saying it like a really upset parent. Like, you can't always just build a fucking last item and go 11-4-0. What do I do?
I heard you. Okay. And Montecrist or whoever wants, go to see BODs and see who was the AD carry that was always building 6 damage item Blade of Ruined King, not Banshee's Veil, Mercurial Scimitar, like purely defensive items to win the game. When you're behind, you have to make it work. You have to make it happen. And how can this happen? By sacrificing yourself sometimes. You can't be always the player that sits behind the line, hitting people. You go in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes you have to go with the offensive items just so you can make the play, and you can make the outplay that will actually allow you to come back into the game, as opposed to wasting your gold on a defensive item that it doesn't really matter and won't have an effect and won't allow you to outplay somebody else. I get that.
And sorry again for interrupting you. Sorry.
No, it's fine. But anyway, I think we should get away from this because it's actually not.
Okay, yeah, Forgiven.
Last point.
Come on.
Was the ultimate AD carry that did that in Worlds? You can Here you go, man. He was jumping into 5 people every single time to win his time. He didn't care if he died. He had he communicated not with pings, I think. But he just had his mind that this guy would support him. He will do a shield. He will do something to support him. I remember a clip that he was jumping into 5 people with Tristana in top lane in a skirmish, and he was winning fights by himself just because he went in. Many AD carries, maybe including me, they would just jump in with W Tristana, hit, and then go back. He went in. He didn't care.
Forgiven. I hate to burst your bubble. Have you ever seen any of those videos that people made from Worlds where they did slow motion of Uzi in team fights? You know the reason why he can jump into 5 people? Because he jumps into someone, steps forwards, hits them in attack range, moves back out, dodges their skill shot, moves off, cleanses a fucking thing off, moves to the side, does another skill shot, moves in, does that, flashes out, uses the fucking Quicksilver Sash to get that cleanse off him, and then goes up. Somehow I don't think MrRallez can do all that, you know? I just get the feeling maybe that might be expecting too much from him, you know.
Well,
was a good example?
Yeah, he was.
I think he's the ultimate outlier, though. You wouldn't teach an AD character to play like him. You'd be like, don't do most of that stuff. You can't do most of that stuff.
You have to try harder or you die trying, dude. That's it. That's how it is. You either try hard, you are just trying to be the best, or you can either suck a cock. You can either...
You see the way I've brought out the full toxicity out of him, dude. Put the cooling jets on. Let's bring the reactor core level back down, Forgiven. Let's just start. Let's calm down. We don't want to get...
Hey, I want to talk about the possibility, though, of Fnatic, the players leaving and forming a team with tabs.
This is why we need show notes, Monty, because that's the truth.
Is it confirmed?
Okay. No, but we're hypothetical again. We're in the imaginary realm here, Forgiven. So
when do the aliens come down, dude? In your story?
Well, soon they bring back MrRallez, who's been off on their planet training in a chamber, and he's finally accessed all that potential. Like, actually, maybe it'll turn out that it wasn't actually potential. He actually just had like a cyst or something, and like that's what kept showing there. But no, he couldn't access it anyway. So there's a rumor that perhaps xPeke, sOAZ, and Cyanide, the three who've been in Fnatic for quite a long time now, maybe they would leave Fnatic. Maybe they'd form a challenger team, or the problem is I don't think there's another LCS team that could take all three, So maybe they'd form a challenger team. If these left and made their own team, would they be good?
How can I know? These guys are playing the game for almost 5 years.
Okay, Yellow Pete. I didn't actually mean like who's going to win the next game. Well, how can anyone know? The game hasn't been played. No, hypothetically, imagine.
Well, this team is supposedly being in Challenger, right? It's like an Ocelot try or like an Alex try, I think. Correct? They're not.
I don't think it's quite at that level. I mean
these are three players who won LCS three times.
But they said they will go out of LCS to form a challenger team with two other players who nobody knows who they are if this happens.
Okay.
Correct?
Well, it would probably be Tabs, though. It would probably be Tabs.
Haven't we seen a lot of people going out of LCS to make a good team to go for Worlds and ultimately failing for various reasons?
No,
Sure.
because I think you're thinking of NiP, and here's the difference with NiP. The NiP had players who showed themselves to be chokers, and they choked repeatedly, and Xmithie and Freeze, and they all know. They know what happened like 3 times in a row or some shit. They know what their problems were. I don't think you can call sOAZ, xPeke chokers. If anything, they've been pretty clutch, especially against European. So actually, that's the one concern I don't have. My concern is, would they be a good team? If they're a half-decent team, I don't think the qualification is the problem.
Right. My other concern with them is, okay, first off, it's not like, they've had this like revolving door of support staff. So it's like they can get more support staff if they want them, but there's not any real, core provided by the Fnatic organization for them, because it's not like they've had a long-term coach. They keep going through coaches and managers and blah, 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 blah. Like every split, they've got a new support staff. So that's not really here nor there for them. I guess my concern would be how in the weeds would they get in terms of sponsorships and trying to get themselves paid. There's a whole headache that comes with creating your own team. So if they didn't have somebody like a manager who they could trust to relieve that burden from them, because they haven't had to think about that stuff very much being on Fnatic, an established organization, over the years. So would that affect their gameplay would be my first concern.
I think that's the bigger issue, because to me, the problem is we all know the reputation that those. Well, I won't put Cyanide in there because I don't know about him, but we all know xPeke and sOAZ have this reputation that because they're champions, so they're very skilled players and they can always get back to that level like we see Fnatic does, there's a reputation that they're not as dedicated to practice, or they don't play as much as they used to, or maybe they don't care as much. That's really something that people put out there. Maybe the motivation isn't there to kill yourself to try and become the world champion. So if they don't have that motivation now in Fnatic, where they're making the finals of LCS, they're going to every Worlds, that's the real concern to me, is if they went to a challenger team and anything went wrong, maybe then one of them just quits. Maybe they're just like, you know what, that's it, like it's over, we're not going to do it. Or maybe they just don't play at all. Maybe with the more motivation, they were being forced even to play as much as they do now. You can see there's a lot of variables that don't have anything to do with skill in the game that could fucking destroy a team like that immediately.
Right. That would be my concern. But I think on paper, those players, they have a history of success. They will be able to attract other successful players to them, especially on a new kind of endeavor, a new team. Sure. But like I said, my concern would be, how do you create this team? Will they be getting paid as much? And that's a danger for any established player as well. And I think that the players are a little too cavalier, a little too gung-ho about trying to go off and do their own thing, and they don't adequately understand what that means.
Thorin, also you are missing a really valid point in what you said, because as I said before, these guys are hypothetically going to build this team in Challenger. They're not going to stay in Fnatic, at least from what I know also, as to say that. Okay, so think it like this. In LCS, these guys, every single day they play 7 or 10 hours a day league, right?
Okay.
No, it's fact, correct. It's fact.
Okay.
In Challenger, how many hours do they have to play? Since they start to play in the Challenger, like they officially go out of Fnatic, they officially form out their team, they officially take all 5 into their team, and they just do some practices. How many hours per day do they have to play against, at least in the round of 4 or in the final of Challenger Coke League, against the Challenger players? and we are speaking strictly about Diamond 1 or Master players who have no previous experience in serious competitive gaming, not in playing like random games in a random online cup. This doesn't even count.
So are you suggesting that they'll play worse teams, they'll play less, and will their level drop?
Eventually they will think. I noticed it in a lot of players, to be honest, and a lot of players that went out of LCS, like not myself. I'm just saying, like, I just think that the moment they realize that, guys, we don't have to play the same hours. We can go out, we can drink, we can just be party animals. We can play Hearthstone. We can be Thorin in another soul, in another world. I don't know what else fact can I add here, and I'm just saying that starting slowly and slowly, we'll play from 10 hours to 5 hours to 3 hours to 2 hours to nothing, and then they get maybe an upset in a series, and then they get fucked over. And like, why did we do that? Why did we left our LCS spot to form our own team? Was it worth it? Was it worth to undermine your playing capacity and level and ability because you want to play in a challenger team?
The other side of that, though, is that if you are confident in your ability to make it back into the LCS, and you have had as much success as guys like sOAZ and xPeke have had, and why not do it now? Why not go into the challenger scene now, before the spring split, when it's the summer split? I mean, we haven't heard for sure that there's going to be a circuit point system, but if you're confident in your ability to get back in and get back into Worlds by the time Worlds rolls around in this next year, well then, before you burn out, why not just take a season, make your own team, not work quite as hard, still crush the challenger scene, get back into the LCS, and then like ramp up and work really hard during summer and for Worlds?
At least, do we have a precedent? Do we have historically a team that did that successfully, but left, or part of the team that left LCS?
I mean, not that left LCS, no. But it's not inconceivable. But teams certainly have slacked off in the early part of the year and made strong finishes. You know what I mean?
I just think that since someone leaves LCS, there is almost no return. And if you want to make this move, it better be goddamn planned correctly. Otherwise, you're doomed. It's simply as it seems. It's really simple. Like, your motivation to play the game starts to drop. Yourself just doesn't want to play League. You just see it as an occupational hobby while it was your job, and there is a vast difference in many people to make a difference in their mind as in terms of what is my hobby and what is the job, or what was my job, and then it just falls over. Like, you just become an ordinary player. You're not an LCS player anymore.
But wait, what about that time that XDG got relegated and then they all just went and then got back in and they went to Worlds?
They got relegated. I don't remember. I
was being sarcastic. Nothing happened, did it? They died in death.
I wasn't playing then. I'm sorry.
So okay, let's we've done the European shit now. Let's switch to NA because there's obviously a lot in NA. Let's start in your favorite team, Forgiven, Curse. So they decided, okay.
I voted for them in Intellects and Masters.
Okay. So they got a player called Piglet. Okay. They decided let's not waste our time with this toxic guy. Because the problem is with toxic people, they can talk and it can affect the team's mentality. Let's get a guy who can't even talk. He can only speak Korean. So that way there's no chance of toxicity affecting us. And then, I've already made that joke with Xpecial anyway. So anyway, they got Piglet. What do you actually think, being objective for a second, what do you think Piglet will be like in a Western team, Forgiven? Do you have any concerns? You were telling me all that. Let's go back. All that shit you just poured on me from the fucking Microsoft training course, and you must synergize with your teammates and teamwork and brotherhood and a lot of team outings and having sandwiches prepared for your office mate will help him become a more efficient worker in the new millennium. All that shit you told me about synergizing. Well, how the fuck are you going to synergize with a guy who speaks Korean and barely any English?
Purely by skill. You just play the game. And
if it's that easy, then dude, you have the easiest answer. Just unlock.
We are talking about a vast difference in Piglet against an ordinary guy.
There's a famous thing.
To be fair, Duncan, it did work with Zero and Uzi.
Yeah.
Well, no, here's the thing. I can tell you, here's the secret that no one knows, okay? The reason why Zero and Uzi worked really well was because Zero picked his name as a support so that he set the expectation level low. He was like, Zero, don't expect anything. Then when it started to work, Uzi was like, wow, actually, you're better than I thought. Now, if you were to have a name for a support and maybe you would call yourself Unlimited, maybe you'd set the expectations too high and then you'd struggle to... Anyway, the joke... You missed the joke, motherfucker. You're supposed to at least get on that. Anyway, my point I'm going to make here is... isn't it going to be really difficult to synergize? Like, essentially, you're saying Uzi and Zero. There's a degree to which, from what I know, it sounds like Zero put a lot of work into really trying hard to like synergize with that guy, and he's even learned some Chinese phrases, and I think he just shifted everything in his game to fit what Uzi's game is. Now, that's what just Xpecial has to do for Piglet?
I don't know. As I said before again, it's that some people are more talented than others. Fact. So it means that they don't even give a set about these issues. Some other people that have to play the game 20 hours a day, or I don't know, like Koreans did it, like they had limited their sleep in order to take advantage of us as players against others. And I think Monte Cristo knows it, like he lives there. I think so. Like some people just overcome it purely by being talented in this game. Some other people that cannot, they just have to work their way around it.
I actually have a theory. I've said it on this. Yeah.
I also have a theory. Yeah, like now I can become foreign for a second. I can become foreign.
Unload
like,
it.
Okay, I did, and like I can bring a counterpoint. Like you used to be, and I think you still are a Counter-Strike fan, right?
Sure thing, Bob.
Yeah, but didn't you met with some players that they just played the game 25 hours? Or not 2 weeks, like a week and a half, and there were players that were playing. Yeah? Let me finish. And there were players that were playing 200 hours per 3 weeks, or I don't know how many weeks. And the player that didn't even play the game was still better than the other guy. We are talking about pure talent.
See, the problem here is it's impossible to read when Forgiven's asking a rhetorical question when he's actually asking you a question. Like, he'll be like, and isn't it true there's a player who's playing 24 hours? I'm like, yeah, there's some, excuse me, let me finish, please. And then this player, he's playing the 23 hours, and isn't he better? And then just silence, like, oh, is I supposed to answer that one? Okay. No, you are right, okay. By the way, for people who don't understand, 25 hours over 2 weeks is obviously a very little Counter-Strike to play. You're absolutely right.
Do it in 1 week.
This is even the theory I was going to bring up. I actually have a theory that I've said on this show before, which is that really great players and lineups, actually the initial point, if it works really well, is that you initially just have like a connection, a synergy, without having to work on team play and stuff. In my opinion, communication and working on things is what you do when you don't have that initial awesome, really like great once in a million connection, you know. Then you use communication and having a system to build that, something close to that. You won't get it usually as perfect as that, but you'll make like a system that, you know, I know my job here and then I know what you're going to do here. But in an ideal world, you'd want to be like a Cloud9, a Gambit, where these things just seem to work immediately, you know. Everyone just somehow knows how to play. So was that just a general point, or do you get a sense, do you think that Piglet and Xpecial will be like that?
How can I know? Do I know these guys from real life to bring out the point? But okay. If you want this answer, if you want me to answer this, honestly, I think
really
they can.
do.
I think they can.
In fact, I must insist.
I think they can. I think they can. They don't even give a fuck about if this guy is nice to each other or not. If they can play the game like they want to, or like Piglet wants it, Xpecial can bring out some points, and then Xpecial wants to play the game like he wants, and then Piglet follows. I don't even know how we're going to do that, how I'm supposed to do that. But they are skilled enough to overrule any other, not ruling, any other procedure what other people have to do. Simple as it seems. They are skilled. They are skilled enough. Xpecial is probably the best North American support North America has even brought out. Probably. I don't know. I haven't played North America to judge. And Piglet is a former fucking world champion, man. Even if he has fallen down, he still has this title. He has won an OGN.
Yeah.
He was one time the best AD carry in Korea and the world. Like, he went into claiming the ultimate title a player can win. Well, your answer is already there, actually.
Okay, yeah. So
there is no need for Forgiven to answer it.
So they should have just recruited Bebe. I get you. Okay. So anyway, Monty, let me ask you in a different way then. If you put Piglet and Xpecial together, do you have any concerns that Piglet's level might go down because he's not playing with a Korean support, he's not playing in the same structure? There's even the aspect of he's in a totally different culture, and who knows if this guy knows what it's like to be with Western people. Does that concern you at all?
Of course, I mean, you have to have that concern. Also, I think a concern of mine with Piglet is that, if you watch a lot of those old videos of that have been subtitled of Mondu and Piglet duo queuing, Mondu is really in command of Piglet a lot of that time and kind of reining him in and holding him on a leash. Piglet's a very aggressive player. Piglet's a very impulsive player. He's a very young guy. And he's definitely, his work ethic can't be questioned. His work ethic is insane. Even by Korean standards, it was known as pretty nuts. But the way that Piglet has played in the past and the synergy that he had with Mondu was very much Mondu was in control of that lane of him. And so how will that translate with Xpecial? You know, how capable is Piglet of kind of making some of these decisions on his own? I don't know. And for me, that would be the biggest kind of question mark going in, is that just knowing there is evidence that we have, you know, English speakers have access to content that has been made of Mondu and Piglet duo queuing together, and seeing that interaction does lead me to a few questions. You know, he's a more mature player now. Will he be able to make that transition? Perhaps, but that would be my immediate concern for sure.
So within the same team, though, we have another move, which is that Voyboy announced that he was leaving. And the way the tweets came out, actually, the guy who's the Curse manager said, like, this wasn't expected. And Voyboy, he said, like, the reason is he wants to take a break and go back to streaming and maybe think about going back to school or something. And so Voyboy's left the lineup. Now, just to be an asshole, remember what I said, folks? Curse will never place top 3 as long as Voyboy's the mid laner. But you can't, that's locked in now. I'm right forever on that one. Sorry, guys. I was right. You're wrong, Sid. Call me Lord, motherfucker. Anyway, that's beside the point. But what do you think? What do you think of Voyboy leaving Curse, Monty? Good or bad? Initial impression. What was your initial impression?
It's not going to be good or bad until we know who the replacement is.
So is that a concern? Are there like, if you think now who's available, are there people better than Voyboy?
Pobelter
is better than Voyboy.
Yeah.
What makes you think that?
Well, he certainly has a higher upside. He's younger. I think he's demonstrated much more playmaking ability. I would much rather have Pobelter.
Plus, he's Asian. Being Asian gives you like a plus 30% potential aura that can be activated at an unknown time, sort of like when Neo just popped in the Matrix. Like, that can happen at any time. No one knows, and so you want to have hold of those players in case it happens during your team. You know. Okay, I get you. Keep going.
No, I think Pobelter could be a very good player. He also has experience with the Curse organization. I mean, obviously,
yeah, he has a pretty good one as well, doesn't he?
I don't know if he's willing to go back to that team at this point. I just, Voyboy, just very mediocre. Like, that's the thing about him, is that I think they do need more presence and more versatility in the mid lane. But yeah, like you said, who do you get at this point? You asked me to throw a name out there, so I'm throwing a name out there. Okay. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Zhao.
Yeah, I don't know if you want 3 different languages on the same team. That would be pretty epic.
But Monty, his English has improved so much.
You should be the analyst.
Anyway. No, but it's a serious concern. I mean, here's the thing about the Voyboy situation. People might forget this, but actually, after Worlds, the Season 3 Worlds, I did an interview with Voyboy, and in the interview, I asked him this question that everyone was saying at the time. It was the tank top meta era, and I say to Voyboy, well, I think he was just starting actually, I say to him, all the champions you played were the assassins that no one plays now. Why don't you move to the mid lane? And listen, I regret that every day. I've apologized to his family. Anyway. And so I actually thought this would be a good idea, right? He can go mid lane. He can play Akali, or RIP. He can play other assassins. He can play Syndra, which for some reason people call an assassin. Don't know why, really. They don't understand what an assassin is, really. So he can play Syndra, he can play Akali, he can play all these. He can play Tristana, all these different champions that he started to play in the mid lane.
Yeah, so
in this era, I thought to myself, no, maybe that is a good move. Maybe that's the right move for his skill set. Now that really what I did there, and this was quite selfish, was I made Voyboy into the canary in the mine of the mid lane, because I always dreamed, what if Flame went down to the mid lane? Maybe he'd carry, maybe. But now that I see what happened to Voyboy, stay in the top lane, Flame. Listen, you have your role. Role swaps are bad, Flame. Just stay in the top lane. Doesn't matter what champions they play there. It could go bad, mate. You don't want to live that ambition life. So, in general, if you had to look back on his career, people now, Monty, you realise it's actually, you're thinking it's a good thing. Like, okay, Voyboy kind of like had his upside towards the end of the summer split, and yeah, he had a few weeks where he was good. He wasn't amazing, but he had a few champions he was getting good on. He had a few pocket picks. But you're probably thinking, okay, there wasn't much left to do at mid lane anyway. It's not like they were going to win LCS with him. He probably might not even have got to Worlds again, depending on how it shook out. So, okay, it makes sense for him. You don't realise, Monty, fans are now going to say, oh, he quit at just the wrong time. He'd gotten so good at the end of the split. He was one of the best mid laners in NA. If he'd have come back this season, then insert forgiven like paragraph about potential and untapping it and all that, all that shit. That's what they're going to think, Monty. What do we think of Voyboy historically as a mid laner, his whole career?
Middle of the road, never that impressive, never that particularly unimpressive either. I mean, just very average. That's how I feel about it, And like, can they get somebody better? I mean, we could talk about maybe they go for mandatory cloud.
Can I ask two questions here?
Yeah,
I feel like you will anyway, so go ahead.
First question, like it's your part to answer this now. There was a post some time ago that like Team Curse resigned the whole team, correct? Like the Quas, Voyboy, I Will Dominate, and Xpecial resigned their contacts.
Yeah, they had all 4 of them except Piglet. There was a picture of them where it said they'd all signed again. You're right, yeah.
2.5 weeks after Voyboy announces he is leaving, what happened first? And second, if we, I say this because I hear a lot of people are saying like NA's talent pool is bad and we can't find players from soloq. That's why we have to import players from regions like from Europe or Latin America or I don't know, like Korea, China, I don't know. If Keras cannot take an LCS mid laner, but is definitely an upgrade on Voyboy, and they have to go on NA soloq challenger to pick a mid laner, can they find?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, of course.
Because
that's why I'm having trouble, trying to figure out somebody for Curse's mid lane. I mean, do you take somebody from Korea? Like, I don't actually know what Quas's status is as like as a resident.
No one does. There's a lot of confusion about that. Like someone said like he might have Canadian citizenship. There's all sorts of weird thing floating around. No one I think knows for that one.
All right, I don't know. So can they take another international player at this point? I don't know. But if they can, are they going to look to Korea? Or are they going to try and get one of the Korean mid laners that may be available? Yes, maybe one of the Samsung guys. Like, I don't really know what the thought process there is, but I do think that. I mean, really, who you're looking at in terms of NA is like probably it's like Pobelter, Prawley, and
Shifter. I don't think he's officially signed to Dig. Has he?
Okay, if Shifter hasn't signed to Dig, maybe.
I think he did.
I think he did. I think he did.
Okay.
Yeah, but what happens if you shift? Sorry.
Do you take Man Cloud or something like that? I don't, and like again, I don't know what the challenger ladder on NA looks like. Maybe there are some talented people, but you have to remember too that one of the reasons why NA doesn't have a big talent pool is NA has a smaller player base than both Korea and EU West. You know what I mean? It's not, the NA server is not as populated as either of those two servers. So you have inherently less people to choose from.
I mean, to be fair, Monty, that user base in Europe, like half of them are fucking like Russians just playing in their own fantasy world that will never impact LCS at all. I'll just add that in there.
I don't know what happens on the US server. I've never played on it, so.
You don't miss much. But I still, like, you didn't answer, like...
Dude, you never answer any... Like, listen, first of all, don't get mad, fans. I actually know Forgiven. That's why I can go in and like this. But he says Monty didn't answer his question. All Forgiven does is fucking ask questions himself. He sounds like one of those cop shows, like, why was the suspect there in 8:59? Why was he? Where was Hoover in all this? And what were the CIA doing?
He's just a firm believer in the Socratic method, man.
Okay.
I just asked Monte Cristo, like, he partly answered, like I said, that if Keras must get a challenger, a mid laner from challenger North American soloq, is this guy what we are going to take when we also know that people say like North American soloq is bad and we don't find players, etc.
Is he better than Voyboy?
Yeah, is he better than Voyboy? Is he upgrade? Is he not?
Like I said, I don't pay attention to the soloq. Probably not would be my answer. Probably not. And as to your other question, what could have happened with the contract there when everybody resigns and then Voyboy takes a break? I mean, clearly players get burnt out. They need to take a break, whatever. Perhaps he's looking for a better offer. But for Voyboy, at the very least, I think that the choice between being an average NA LCS mid laner and the choice between making a mountain of money streaming on Twitch is a pretty obvious decision for me.
Okay,
I know what I would do.
Let's keep moving. So we've got 2 moves from Dignitas. One was they announced that Kiwikid re-signed with them. And then the other was that they lost ZionSpartan, because that's going to connect to another piece that he's obviously joined CLG. So first things first. Resign. What? Here we go. Forgiven. What is your opinion of Kiwikid as a support player?
Why would I have to answer this?
Because I just asked you politely.
Okay, Dad. Okay, sorry. Mediocre at best.
Mediocre. Okay.
Mediocre at best.
You weren't impressed with him?
Obviously not. I don't think someone did. And I don't want to be harsh. It just didn't seem like a player that was playing in his lane.
Yeah.
And in general also, he didn't seem like, not that he enjoyed playing with Cutie but they didn't have that great of a synergy.
Who's better, Kiwikid or Unlimited?
I asked you, I answered you in this exact time.
Listen, you have to make some enemies too, motherfuckers, so tell me who you think is better.
Unlimited, it's unlimited. For me, it's unlimited.
You hear that, NA fans? This motherfucker needs to be banned. He's toxic as fuck. He just talked shit on Kiwikid. He said Unlimited's better. No, anyway, yeah. No, I don't think anyone here thinks that Kiwikid's some super duper player, but that's what surprises me. Why do you think they would re-sign him? Can we even speculate?
How can I know? I don't know. It's your job to know.
Okay, so ignoring that one, Monte, ZionSpartan has left Dig. Now, I get the sense throughout all of history, you've never particularly been impressed by ZionSpartan. Just from the way you talked on the different shows, etc. It sounds like, yeah, it just sounds like you never thought, maybe you never bought the hype that he was some super duper carry top laner.
I don't. I mean, I think he's fine. I just think that he has a lot of development left to go in terms of knowing how to play with his team, selecting appropriate picks for a team composition to help out his team. I just don't perceive ZionSpartan as a big-time team player. I perceive his playstyle as being rather selfish.
Okay.
And I don't think that when he does play selfish, that he gets enough done with the resources that he is given. That's my opinion.
But I've just realized this is perfect. He's joined exactly the right team. You know, I always say that, like, the team has to fit the strengths and weaknesses of a player. So he's a top laner who plays a bit too selfish, maybe tries to make some shot calls sometimes, and he's now joining CLG. It's the perfect organization from Monte.
Why do you say that?
Because historically, every top laner has to become the bitch of the entire team, play entirely unselfishly, die, have no ganks ever, and they all end up retiring from the whole fucking game afterwards.
Well, I think that Zion's transition may be aided by the fact that they're going to be getting a new jungler as well, and it looks like they're getting somebody from soloq. I don't know, that's the rumor. I have no idea. I don't have any contact with the people who are making the decisions with CLG at the moment. Obviously, I talked to Doublelift a bit at Worlds about my thoughts about the team, and that was it. I haven't heard anything since Worlds ended. I can say that we looked at ZionSpartan when we were looking for a top laner for CLG initially. He did have a significant buyout price from Coast, and after Afrobu was duoing with him a lot on the NA server while we were hunting around, and that ultimately we had a team meeting, and we as a team decided that at the time ZionSpartan was not worth the buyout price from Coast. If he hadn't had a buyout price, would we have taken him? I don't know. But that was the decision that was made at the time by all of us after having a team meeting. And so it is interesting to me that they would want to get him now. If you don't want to take Seraph back and you don't want to go with another foreign player option, certainly he's one of the better pickups that you could have. And perhaps over time, considering he's moving also with Scarra, so he's comfortable with the coach, that he can develop, I think, into a more diverse and more team-centric player. but he may, based on my attempts to integrate more carry-oriented top lane picks into CLG, he may meet with significant resistance from the team. Again, this will depend, I think, a lot on what junglers are introduced, like what the jungler's playstyle is. Perhaps he'll get a lot of jungle support, and he will be able to carry really hard. But I don't know. I think I would be very scared if I was CLG with all these jungle changes of taking an amateur jungler and putting them into the team right now. I would be absolutely terrified. I would, at this point, with all of these changes that are being made, on any team, I would prefer to take a former professional jungler, even if I thought they had a lower skill ceiling, than try and take a very high skill ceiling jungler right now and put them into an LCS team. Sure, the upside is obviously a lot higher, but given the importance of having professional experience as a jungler in the first place to understand how to play, again, the position that is the most different from soloq, and then you couple it with the what I perceive as massive jungle changes, and not only are they significant, they open up decision making for a jungler in a myriad of ways. So I would be very reluctant to take an amateur jungler right now. I would be super reluctant for any team.
So here's the thing, okay. On one level, I think Zion is like a good move to do because they obviously had issues with Seraph. Even if he clearly isn't like a god of top lane, but you kind of know what you will get. You'll get some good games out of him. He'll have some games where he does carry. He'll have some games where he does well. That's all good. You need something else. If we've seen CLG lacks carry potential at the moment, so they do need someone who at least embraces that role. That's all great. The problem, here's the thing. I've got a controversial opinion. When have I ever had any of those before? I have a prediction for you here, folks. Are you ready? Scarra, as the coach of CLG, will not make CLG a much better team. In fact, I don't think they'll be that significantly much better. Like, I don't think they'll win LCS with Scarra as the coach, and here's why. First of all, Scarra already was the coach of Dignitas, remember? People like to forget that. But when they were on top and when they were tied for top, all we saw, we got fucking spammed by Riot videos and people saying what a great job Scarra's doing. I noticed when Dig then went to shit and then got almost relegated, like, no, well, they didn't get almost relegated. They won that last match, but they came like 5th place or whatever. No one seemed to say like, well, Scarra did a bad job there or this, that, and the other. Yeah, actually, if you look at their team, you can't just put it on individual performance. They had some players who played worse, but also they seem to have a pretty bad tactical approach to the game. Like if you remember the series against CSM, all they did is try and force split push all the time. And it worked one game barely, and that's it. Then they lost the game barely. That's it. They didn't have some great strategical approach, which in theory, again, give the credit and give the blame to the coach for this. That's what people have been doing. So I don't know that Scarra has some precedent of being some amazing guy who can fix problems. Here's the key thing: fix problems. If he couldn't fix the problems in Dignitas, I don't know why people would assume a team like CLG, which historically is the worst team in the whole region for making the most out of its talent in terms of strategical aspects. Like, they've never really gotten it together and properly made the most out of it. I think that's actually the hardest job you could give to Scarra when he hasn't necessarily shown himself as some sort of... He's not like some genius player coach who convinces this guy to play differently and then figures out what the secret to that was. If you remember, even in the old Dignitas lineups, people always used to give him the credit because he's such a good talker. He's very articulate with how he thinks about the game. People used to give him the credit for why Dignitas could do all those interesting, innovative early game strategies, right? But remember what used to happen in those Dignitas games? They would do the crazy shit early on, then they'd lose it like 10 minutes, lose it 15 minutes, throw the game at 20 minutes, whatever, you know, they'd always lose later on. It was always actually strategical things that then cost them later on. At least that's what they would say. They wouldn't say, oh, we shit the bed and couldn't kill, but they'd say, no, we threw the game. So I actually think that... just from my own observation, Scarra probably... I get the sense that outside of the game, maybe he has a really good mind for the game, but I don't know if he's going to have the impact that people are already writing him up as having. Like, oh, he's going to fix everything in CLG, and then, oh, it's going to... Zion was on Dig, so that's all going to be great. Like, I don't really know that you can say any of that, to be honest. I need to see something first, you know. I'm not so confident that he's going to be some monster coach.
I mean, who knows? I mean, but I think Dignitas did have, strong strategic moments in the split, as did CLG, and CLG tailed off too. And who knows if there were internal issues at Dignitas like there were at CLG. I mean, personally, and also when you say that he's not some sort of, genius player coach, I don't even think we have any of those in the West at all. So, there's that too. I mean, everybody is still learning.
No, but here's the thing.
That's
the thing. I'm not saying that as a diss. Like, as you said, there are none. What I'm saying is, the problem with that is, if you were that sort of coach, then I could say, okay, well, you're going to take Link, who's clearly had problems, and you're going to somehow fix him, and you're going to take Doublelift and get him with the right mentality. No, he's probably going to get what he has and just work with what he has, and it's unlikely he's going to radically change the style and mentality of these players. So as a result, if you look at what CLG has at the moment, I don't know that I can't look at that and say they're going to come top 2 next split. I can't. I would say they wouldn't, because what's going to change?
My opinion of CLG is that they have very smart players in Aphromoo and Link, and they have the tools they need to succeed. The thing that CLG needs the most is a sports psychologist or a counselor to lead them through discussions in order to actually get this information discussed properly. That is my opinion. So whoever can do that, whether it's Scarra or CLG hires somebody else, that would be the number one thing in my book that would help that team.
You said, Forgiven, that you're like the biggest Doublelift fanboy.
Yes.
What do you think of CLG? What we know so far. You think CLG can be really good? Like, can Doublelift be the best AD carry?
Well, the only thing I know is that being a Doublelift fanboy, I got disappointed so many times that he almost never won a title. Almost like FORG1VEN did, and he really deserved it as a player. And I would be really tired enough or fed up if there is another season spent up that these guys or his team or himself doesn't earn a title. It will be actually really sad, at least for me. I don't know. I'm tired of hearing every time potential, and the memes with potential intensifies and all this stuff. It's just, after a while, it gets a bit sad. And for the player, because when you respect someone and you see that this someone doesn't have any success as in terms of achievements, then I don't know, man. It's just sad. I can't find another word to describe it.
Okay, let's do some more NA while we've got time. So one move that actually was in theory leaked a while ago, but I don't know if it's been officially made, was that Santorin will apparently be the jungler for TSM. That's what everyone says. You're from Europe, Forgiven.
Yes.
Who the fuck is Santorin? Why should I be excited that he's the jungler of TSM?
Santorin was a player from my server, EU Nordic and East, that came to West. He climbed the ladder consequently. Yep. He reached about top 50, I think, or top 100. And then he made a failed attempt with Cloud9 Europe.
Yeah, he was the substitute who played instead of Ku because Ku was underage. And then, okay, that was a rhetorical question, by the way. Okay, here's the quick version, okay? I'll just give you my perspective, because you must know more about Mr. Players, okay? So this is all I know about Santorin. What you just said there. Cloud9 Europe was one of the best teams in Europe in the challenger scene. Everyone thought for sure they're going to get in, they're going to beat one of these bad teams in LCS, they're going to win the qualifier, but their problem was their star jungler, Ku, couldn't play because he was 16. So last minute, they had to get a substitute. After dominating a lot of the challenger scene, they bring in this Santorin guy, they go play the qualifier, they shit the bed completely, they have no chance of getting in, they don't get in. That's it. To me, I thought that was the end of my Santorin experience. I'd had it, and I was like, nah, maybe a bit, not enough for me, not enough flavour. Then, suddenly out of nowhere, I hear this news, he's joined Coast's team in Challenger. So he goes over there, okay, he's playing there for a while. Again, nothing amazing's happening that I'm having to take wow, this guy's there wasn't even any hype around him in Challenger and NA. It wasn't like Ku and these guys in aiming where everyone's like, wow, if these guys got into LCS, they'd be the next big thing, and they'd do there wasn't any of that around him. So that's what's puzzling me. There wasn't any hype at any point around this guy, or anyone who was a pro even saying, this guy's really good and watch out for him. And so suddenly, why he's in TSM? I personally, I don't get it. To me, it looks like another fucking Glebe pool where it's I don't know what the upside here is. So Forgiven.
Yeah,
do you actually know something?
The only thing I know is that he played for the best tilt team in Europe, and he obviously failed to achieve something with them. But he wasn't also particularly an insane or a very good jungler in Europe. He was okay. That's it. And then he went into North America, and that's actually all I can tell you as of what I know, because I never thought this guy was a top talent, but this was about 1.5 years ago, It's already 2 splits or more that he is big in North America. Who knows if this guy is already a better player than what he was. I don't know. People usually, sometimes if they try hard enough, they can get better.
Monty?
I didn't watch the games with him. I'm just going off of what I've heard as well. But you know, it's interesting to me. He's very young, so perhaps TSM feels that he's moldable in the long term. Also, it has to be said, the NA jungle talent pool is crap. Like, it's real bad.
What do you mean by that? You mean in Challenger?
Take? No, just like in the LCS too.
I've got an opinion that's going to blow your mind, Monty, because I've been thinking about this. Everyone talks shit on NA junglers, right? I actually think it's the other way round. I actually think NA has a pretty good pool of junglers. They have no fucking solo laners, and if you're a jungler with no solo laners, how are you going to shine? So think about this: you got Crumbs, you got I Will Dominate. Who else have we got? We used to have Dexter was all right.
But Dexter's European.
Okay, yeah, he was in the region though. Okay, but sure, I Will Dominate. Okay. These are solid players, right?
Okay, yeah, but their issue is that because of the new rule set, when Amazing left, they have to take they have to take an NA jungler. Yeah. And so Santorin's already grandfathered in because he was there.
Yeah.
So the thing is, their only options are like Crumbs and I Will Dominate. And
I would have gone super hard at both those players if I was TSM.
Or Helios.
I'd have gone and I'd have like said, name your price. I've got to have one of you two, because if you do. Dude, if you put I will Dominate or Crumbs on that TSM team, doesn't it become a better team?
I would agree. I think with Crumbs. In fact, if I was TSM, I would have had Crumbs. But Crumbs is in a position where he was kind of given the keys to Dignitas right now to make his own team. So if you're Crumbs, perhaps you feel that that's going to be a better option for you to build the team to have a lot of weight and say in the team that you want. I think there's some value in that, and Crumbs has really been, trusted by the Dignitas organization in order to do that. So if he wants to take that approach, it's totally understandable. Also, like, who knows about the whole Helios situation? Maybe TSM didn't want to become TSM Blaze. I have no idea what Lustboy and Helios's relationship after playing together for years is. Like, Meteos isn't going to leave, obviously. So what? Dominate, maybe? But if you're Dominate, you see Amazing leave, you see TSM in trouble without a jungler, and you see Piglet coming your team, and you maybe feel that you actually are possibly better than TSM right now.
No, it's not ridiculous.
Before Voyboy leaves, right? Because this, like, the Voyboy thing just happened, so he couldn't have known about that at the time. So it's not ridiculous, I don't think. And so where do you go from there if you're TSM? You mean Santorin is grandfathered in, everybody else is not good.
I actually have a statement as well to make for you, Monty, which I think holds true. Because the off-season looks so big, like LCS doesn't start until sometime in January, right? And if you're not in the expansion tournament, you're not thinking about that anyway, because you don't have to worry about that, okay? That I think a lot of these teams really mismanaged the off-season, even though it's only just begun, because a lot of teams thought to themselves, we'll have a long time to contract people and do this, that, the other. And what's happened is a few teams have contracted people early and they've won the off-season, essentially. Like, if it's true, I think there was a news post that Roccat had, basically they contracted Jankos almost immediately. I think before Worlds even ended. Smart. That is so smart, because think about Fnatic and TSM. All these teams would have wanted that player.
Well, TSM couldn't have gotten Jankos, but
if you replace another player, maybe.
Sure,
but you see what I mean. There would have been bigger names with more money who would have been much more attractive, and these people would have been preying on these sorts of players, whereas if you've already got them contracted early, you can see, as we're describing here, once you go through all the possibilities, you get to people where it might actually be now the best case scenario is to get Amazing onto this team and then to get Santorin onto this team. It's not that these are the best players, it's that they're the best of what's left.
Right, and even in NA, if we're talking about Jankos, CLG is the obvious choice for Jankos to go to. You know what I mean? Because they needed a jungler after Dexter left, and they have a slot for a foreign player, right? Dominating Crumbs, they're not going to need it. Nobody's going to go to LMQ. Like, what is even happening with LMQ? You've got now Xiao and more who speak only Chinese on there. It's good. I mean, who knows what's going to happen to that team? So it's like, I don't know. I think that if Jankos was going to go anywhere in NA, it would have been CLG.
Okay.
But I think it doesn't really matter because that wasn't even hypothetical. It's like you're saying, I think Roccat was smart.
I've just remembered one, Monty. There was another name because he plays for Coal Black now, Xmithie, NA jungler.
That's true.
If you had to, listen, I'm not pretending Xmithie is Xmithie of Season 3. He's not. But if it was me, I would gamble on Xmithie now, whatever status he's in, over Santorin. Because I don't know anything about Santorin. Who the fuck knows anything about Santorin? No one. Even Santorin doesn't know about Santorin.
Yeah, I can see that actually. But who knows? Maybe they tested him out and he was... I have no idea what Xmithie's condition is right now.
Like, the biggest problem to me with the Santorin issue is the fact that we have to compare him against Amazing, because Amazing is the guy who departed the slot. And here's the thing, okay? People think that I think Amazing shit. Never said that. Never said he's a bad player. Always said he's good on certain champions. He has limitations. That's the key thing I've said. But ignore the limitation for a second. The difference is... The downside of Amazing is he's only super good on those certain champions, and then when he goes off, there's a big drop-off. But within that limitation, I've just described the good part, which is that when he's on the Lee Sin games, he can be really good. Now, I don't know any champion that Santorin's going to be as good on as Amazing was on those shots. So you see what I mean? Even the upside of that isn't there. So actually, I think Amazing was better than probably Santorin will be. But that's going to be a problem for TSM going forwards. Let me think. The rest of the teams in NA that had moves were all Challenger. So since Monty doesn't have that much time left, I vote we just skip the Challenger part and we'll go to some other regions to finish up now.
Sorry, can I ask something before? 1 minute question?
All you do is ask questions, so go ahead, buddy. Keep going. Keep asking them.
It's a foreign question. Like,
well,
in the 3 years I almost play League, if you join Reddit or in general if you are involved with the communities, you will hear that when a European player rises up, and rises like in general and like claims the solo queue, like you will start hearing hype about him.
Yeah.
Like what happens now, for example, with Niels, the new Rekkles, or I don't know how we are calling him. And in the 3 years I play, the only NA player I heard of was PopBelter, and Altec. Those two. I never heard anyone else. Like, I never had any other player, or I never saw any other stream, I never saw any other Reddit post, I never saw in general any other forum writing about this player, this ex-player being really good and he should get into an LCS team sometime, blah, 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 blah. And if you go into Europe, we have Incarnation, we had FORG1VEN, we have now Niels, we had, for example, Voidle, where were insane loads of players stacking up in Europe and be hyped so much that
White
they
Knight,
be
the list goes
picked.
on, yeah.
And what did America had to offer? Only Altec and PopBelter, at least from my side, from my perspective.
I mean, I think sOAZ was also one. He was highly touted as a solo queue talent. Okay, but there wasn't many. You're right. There weren't many solo queue gods who everyone thought you had to pick this guy up. Did you have a point with that? Was it just a question?
No, it's just that you have to think at some point what are the choices that these teams have to make, especially with Riot stopping them down from getting an international jungler or whoever. That's all. Was it so bad?
Monty, I've got a question for you then. So here we go. We're talking about getting established junglers who might not be as good right now as skilled, so Xmithie fit that, but they're better than taking a risk on a guy no one knows anything about and who himself hasn't proven anything. Okay, that was the principle we talked about earlier. So people will think I'm joking when I say this. TSM Saint Vicious. Why not?
I mean, Saint has a very strong personality, and they may not want to deal with that. I think that from the perspective of the TSM, I can't imagine Saint and Loco Doco working well together.
See, what's funny is you said that, and every fan who's within the Light 2.0 operating system on their brain was like, oh yeah, he's right, strong personality, yeah, that wouldn't fit on a team. Here's what I want to know, Monty. How come there is no such thing in League of Legends as someone who has a strong personality, who isn't an asshole, toxic piece of shit, should never be able to play? There are only super beta male guys or toxic players. That's all there is. There's nothing between. There's no one who's like confident and believes in himself and knows what he wants for his life and is his own man. That doesn't exist in League of Legends. It's like some fucking feminist patriarchal nightmare where they've like fixed the male race and now none of us are big balls guys who just do what we want, you know, like, dude.
I think it becomes to the fact that these guys are very young and they haven't really established themselves in their own identity yet, and so it ends up just being kind of more or less like guys who aren't confident enough in their own personalities, and then guys who are too confident in their personalities and don't know how to kind of moderate that.
But I look at that TSM team and I think to myself, they didn't have enough strong personalities. That was one of their problems.
Well, I mean, they have very strong management in terms of personalities.
Yeah, but the problem is the management can't like take over the keyboard and actually win that game because they're not choking and crumbling and all that shit, you know?
All right. I mean, I don't know. It's just like, that's my perception, is that just knowing both Saint and Loco Doco, it's difficult for me to imagine them working well together.
Okay, before we leave NA then, I've got one last topic. When I'm looking at these rosters, Monty, I'm not even joking. Because of all the uncertainty in NA and what you've described, like as we've gone through the process there of who can they get and does this team have exempts, do they have foreigners, and it's limiting the options of a lot of the known teams, CLG at certain positions, Curse, Dignitas, the different TSM, these different teams have spots where it's not just a case of picking anyone you want anymore. They're actually limited options. You look at the lists of players out there, right? And actually, Curse Academy's lineup looks pretty good when you look at who other teams might have to take. Their lineup is Hauntzer is the top laner. Then they've got St. Vicious, Keen, Cop, and Bunny Fufu. That's actually, like, compared to the other LCS, that's already an LCS quality team.
Possibly. I mean, we'll have to see what exactly they go through right there. I mean, clearly they nearly made it into the LCS already. So.
Okay, right. I've got some Korea stuff now. So, one of the worst exoduses that no one really talked about was that out of nowhere on CJ, Daydream, yeah, Emperor and Gunza all just didn't renew their contracts. So actually, CJ, like a lot of the other Korean teams, it looks like are just going to be taking people we've never heard of, probably solo queue people. You said before that like it was a good thing that these players left, or like it's not the end of the world for Korea. Monty, as it stands right now, Samsung Blue, Samsung White, CJ, who else? Some of Najin teams. These teams have nothing right now. They have one or two players that you even know. How is that not bad for the Korean team?
It's bad.
It's terrible, right?
It's bad. Also, CJ doesn't have a jungler right now because Swift left as well. And who knows what's going to be happening with SK Telecom. Of course, a lot of... Here's the thing, is that people say, oh, they're leaving. We don't even know if they're leaving yet. They're just no longer affiliated with their old teams. That's the weird shit that's happening right now. And like now there's new information that's coming out, like Kakao and Rookie are kind of like in a weird place with this team in China that they signed to because, they were thinking about buying, as I understand it, and this is all hearsay, and I don't know if any of this is true, that they were planning on, like, the team was planning on buying an LPL slot, but now the LPL slots are much more expensive, so they can't afford to do it, so maybe they won't qualify. So, like, do we know if these Korean players are all even going to go to China? No, we don't. I think they're just exploring their options right now, and they're waiting until the offers come in. Will the Kespa teams wake up and start to actually pay these players a higher amount of money? Perhaps. I don't really know the answer to that. But basically what we have right now is a lot of players that have been released and nobody is signed, right? What do we know for sure? Kakao and Rookie are signed. Deft is signed to EDG. I'm pretty sure that's it. Pretty sure that's all we know. 100%, right? Obviously, Dade's been shopping around in China. There are some like rumors about him. Will some of these guys, come to the States or Europe to play? Potentially. But until some announcement is made, and I don't trust rumors that like this player has signed with the team until the team is actually like announcing it, because it's esports, man. You can't trust that shit. So I don't know. I think it's a really difficult situation to call right now. And for all we know, a lot of these players are just going to end up back in Korea, potentially back on their same teams.
Okay, Monty, Deft has officially joined EDG.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Weird that they would, that Name would leave. Yeah, he had a bad Worlds, but he had 2 great seasons. with EDG, and considering he can speak the language, I would have thought that was going to be Name would be a better long-term solution.
What did you think of my interpretation that basically they just got someone who plays just like Name but doesn't speak Chinese?
I know, it's weird, right? It's super weird. I think it's a very strange change, and perhaps I could see it. I don't know what the situation with Name is. Does Name want to take a break? Does Name want to retire?
Did you hear the rumor?
What?
The rumor is maybe Name is going to form the super team with OMG.
Well, he did play when I was casting WCG last year. He did play on OMG with Sika. They replaced San with Name for WCG, and they still got destroyed by CJ Blaze. So, I mean, take of that what you will. They tried to make that.
There's no shame in losing to the best team of all time.
I've seen the super team, the OMG super team with Name, though. I casted it. Yeah, I mean, that would make sense too. And if they want to preserve their team synergy, if Name was trying to leave to go to OMG or whatever, or had already left the team for XYZ reason, why would you not get a player that you know already, you're a winning team, you've won 2 seasons, you're only 2 seasons of the LPL, get a plug-and-play AD carry that has a similar style. That makes sense to me. Yeah, so maybe it'll work out. Like I said, it depends on Name's departure. If they kicked Name for Deft, that would be weird to me. But even so, there's not so much work to be done, considering he does fit in kind of nicely with their current scheme.
So we need to know the other side of that move, basically. Right. I've got one last topic then, and this is going to shock you here, because the last topic of the show will be about Southeast Asia. Oh my God, what are we doing right now? I figured if we could talk about fucking NA Challenger, we can talk about Southeast Asia. Okay, so Taipei Assassins, Bebe has retired, and they brought in a guy called Lupin, named after Arsène Lupin, I believe, this famous French, like, sort of charismatic thief from French literature. You didn't know about that, Forgiven. Shut the fuck up. But Bebe was an AD carry, right? And he just played at Worlds, and he had a feature about him in that Worlds thing, and everyone cried, and it was so emotional. What did you think of Bebe from what you saw at Worlds? Did you see him play at all, Forgiven?
Well, I remember him from the past Worlds. Like from this, like as I said before, I didn't show that much from the group stages, but I wasn't particularly enthusiastic. Like, it's the same as Name. Like, I heard a lot of people saying that Name is the god and he will come to rule the world along with the aliens from Thorin.
Well, he's not MrRallez, that's for sure, but I mean, you know. Actually, I've got a point for you here, Forgiven. Let me just make this point really quickly. Have you ever noticed, just think about this is a real, I'm not even being sarcastic here, this is a real thought exercise to do in your mind, okay? You know, if you see like Dade play a game and he does badly, or he does like well in one game but then another opponent like beats him soundly, think about how you think about it in your own mind. What you think to yourself is, oh, I guess that's how good Dade is. I guess what I saw from him in that game is like the limits of his skill, and there's the positives of it when he was doing well, and here's the negatives. That's how you think in your own mind. That's who Dade is. And if I see, if I see Dade in a month, probably be similar to that. That's how people think of Asian players. Now think about how every single Western pro will describe a Western player. No, well, he's got all his potential and his upside, and if you had a different player, and if you did that, notice how totally different the way of thinking of them is. Yet with Asians, no one ever thinks to himself, hey, you know what? Maybe Faker's got another level to go up to. Maybe he's going to go to 1.5 times Faker. No, every Western player is potential, and it's going to be so much better, and if X, Y, Z, and whatever, every Asian player is just who they are, what they are now, and they'll probably be as good next year, and if High improves his mechanics, Faker will stay the same and High will move up to his level. It's an insane way to think about the world, because it's literally racism, essentially. But to peel that back a bit, it's just being a bit naive and giving one guy credit here that you don't give to another, you know. What do you think about this, Forgiven? I mean, you've literally defined fucking unlimited potential. You've created that term, mate.
Well, I don't know, man. Like, I just say, I like the point you gave. I think I somehow agree, but you have a tendency to over-exaggerate a bit. But what I have to say is, like, when I judge a player, I judge him by seeing many games, not by one game.
Okay.
And, like, I give this example because, like, I heard, like, I was reading so many times that Name was such an insane player, like the gift of God, like this guy is the Messiah and he will come like Faker and bring the peace in the world, and like I see him playing and I'm like, what the fuck are these people talking about? A different player, he is good but he's not what they said, and this kind of makes him like he's not he's like an overrated player without being overrated. Like,
you're totally
it makes
right.
No sense.
Here's the thing, you're totally right. Nami's performance at Worlds wasn't at the level everyone said it was, who was an expert, and it definitely wasn't at the level. Here's the thing, but let me ask you this. You think Rekkles could be the best Western sport AD carry? Was Rekkles at Worlds exactly as you thought? Was his level at that level where he's the best Western AD carry?
Western, like if you, like, I guess you include like Sneak and those.
Everyone in NA and EU, was he by far the best?
I think yes.
If you ask me, I think Sneaky played better at Worlds than Rekkles did.
What? Well, you're for it. You have your own opinions.
You don't think so?
I think Sneaky is a really good player. I'm just not fond of how he plays. That's all.
Why?
Because I'm a bit. There is a word that should be found. Well, let's say it like this: if someone doesn't play the way I think the game should be, and I'm particularly a nobody in this.
You really are
point.
a double F fan, aren't you?
Yeah. Well,
keep going.
For example, that if this guy doesn't play like I think the game should be played, I don't consider him the best. Like.
Then
Rekkles
why the fuck are you such a
best.
fan of Rekkles? Because he doesn't play at all
I'm
like you
not
like to play the game.
I'm not Rekkles. I even said before, but I consider this guy a bit lower than others, and you hated me because I included Rallez. What if I included Mixa and stuff, and all those players you hate and you don't even want to hear about? You know, I'm just saying that Rekkles worked with what he had completely, and he was the best. Sneaky. It was like Nami. I thought he played like Nami. He was good player.
You're blowing my mind right now. It's the other way around. Rekkles didn't make use of all the talent he had around him. Sneaky made 100% capacity efficiency on the fucking dog shit that he has to work with. He has a dude who's like a 28-year-old fucking stoner, like in a frat house, like, hey man, why don't we play Ashe Zyra this lane? Like, yeah, the guy's really smart, but in game he's just an okay spot player. This guy's making miracles out of that. He's like that mother who stays at home on Christmas and she makes a full Christmas meal out of a fucking ready-made ramen packet and some fucking chestnuts or something.
Oh wow, man.
How the fuck can you think Unlimited's super good and then you're like, nah, Sneaky, I'm not even impressed. Not that good.
I don't know. They're
Dude,
just different. Yeah.
Forgiven. How many titles has Sneaky won? He's won all of them, bro. He's won LCS.
So, is he the most successful AD carry in the history of NA? Yes. Is he the best? No. There you have your answer.
I feel like we've gotten somewhere. Oh, we haven't really. We've gotten nowhere. We've just circled back on ourselves, much like fucking Ouroboros, the snake that eats its own tail. And then this is the end of the episode. Forgiven, do you have any final thoughts for everyone who watched the show today?
You guys are too funny.
Any final thoughts, Forgiven?
Well, I guess it's the end of our adventure.
Okay.
Then it was really nice. Like, thank you at first for.
What is your Twitter address? Because I forgot to put them on the screen.
I'm sorry if I interrupted Monte Cristo or Thorin sometimes or many times or way too many times. It's just that.
It's fun.
It's just that I really enjoyed it. That's why I wanted to participate as much as I could. So thank you.
What is your Twitter handle? Because I forgot to put them on the screen. So what is it?
Huh?
What is your Twitter name?
Or Twitter.
I don't know actually. Wait. I don't even use Twitter that much. Is it needed? Like, I don't know.
Just tell me it.
It's the known link, and you just add my name with the numbers. I'm like the number guy. That's all. Like 247.
247. So thanks for coming on. It's been fun.
And if you're watching this episode like a week into the future, what he means is it's at SK Forgiven with the numbers in it. And
hey. So I have a question for you. Just so if just to your fans, if theoretically you were going to go on a team and this team was SK, would you want your fans to cheer for SK?
I would like them to cheer for a player they like the most, not Forgiven or not SK. I just hope that I can actually, as a player...
Monty, where has this reputation come from that this guy is like a bit too forthright, his own opinions, he's right and everything, it has to be his way or the highway, communication issues. I don't know where it's come from myself. You've been a pleasure, Forgiven. It's been a wonderful episode, smooth.
Last question for you, because you want it. Do you think I'm a bit close with Xmithie in terms of character?
No.
That's sort of left field. I don't even know where that came from.
Okay, guys. Thank you.